My heroes. Dedicated to my son, Gurinder Ricky Singh. Dedication. There is no better reflection of a person than his own son. When I look at his eyes, touch his face, kiss his cheeks, he reminds me of the endless possibilities for his future. All of us try and do the best we can for our kids. We try and give them everything we can, especially many things that we did not have growing up. My goal in writing this book is to share with my son the values and the ideals that I believe in, which are essential in today's world. In my own humble way, I am trying to give him some more wind below his wings so that he can fly and soar high. All teenagers, including my son, generally have quite a bit of energy that surely needs to be channeled for their progress and benefit. The heroes and heroines in this book all have contributed in extraordinary ways for the betterment and advancement of all people, as per their talents and dreams. The capacity to dream can be developed in the adolescent mind by reflecting upon the lives of each person portrayed in this book. When I see my son, there is, of course, great love and affection and a deep desire to see him aspire to great heights with an attitude of improving the human condition. Such great values can be transmitted from parents to their children, especially during teenage years. With all the changes occurring in teenagers, a book such as this one can be very valuable in the development of the teen mind. Life can be filled with joy that comes from achieving good goals. Without setting meaningful goals in life, teenagers can easily go astray. In many ways, my intention is to inspire my son to set lofty goals and have a highly fulfilled and energetic life. Although he already has wonderful qualities and is developing nicely, the deep desire to keep progressing further makes life truly wonderful and filled with new experiences. I dedicate this book to my son, Gurinder Singh, with great love and affection. Acknowledgements. Behind every successful person there is usually a team headed by a woman. A woman who has decided to give up everything and focus solely on the success of her partner's dreams. Something very similar has happened in my case too. I also have a team of friends and family to keep me grounded and focused. At the top of the team is my wife, Manjeet Kaur. She has from a very early point been my biggest supporter and cheerleader. Without her unstinting love, belief, and passion, this book nor anything else in my life would have been possible. This one's for you, my love. I also want to express my sincere respect for all the people featured in this book. They are truly extraordinary beings who have used their time, energy, motivation, vision, and strength for human progress. The impact of everyone featured in this book cannot be adequately expressed given the far-reaching effects of their contributions. Finally, I want to express my affection and respect for my parents, Dalbir Singh, father, Prem Kaur, mother. They are certainly the foundation of my life. My father was deeply devoted to the family, working countless hours trying to fulfill our needs and wants. He went far above and beyond his financial capacity in terms of providing for our future. In complementing his hard work and dedication, my mother's unwavering focus was on the overall development of her children. I will forever be eternally grateful to my parents for giving me the values that I am now attempting to pass on to my son. Thomas Edison. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Thomas Alva Edison, February 11, 1847, October 18, 1931, was an American inventor and businessman who has been described as America's greatest inventor. He developed many devices in fields such as electric power generation, mass communication, sound recording, and motion pictures. These inventions, which include the phonograph, the motion picture camera, and early versions of the electric light bulb, have had a widespread impact on the modern industrialized world. He was one of the first inventors to apply the principles of organized science and teamwork to the process of invention, working with many researchers and employees. He established the first industrial research laboratory. I am proud of the fact that I never invented weapons to kill. Thomas A. Edison. The best thinking has been done in solitude. The worst has been done in turmoil. Thomas A. Edison. Interesting facts. Thomas Edison was a sick boy as a child and a slow learner. His mother was a former school teacher and thought otherwise. She thought Edison needed proper guidance so that he would be confident and learn easily. His mother pulled him out of the school before he was expelled. Edison is credited for contributing to various inventions, including the phonograph, the kinetoscope, the dictaphone, the electric lamp, in particular the incandescent light bulb, and the autographic printer. He also greatly improved the telephone by inventing the carbon microphone. At 13 he took a job as a newsboy, selling newspapers and candy on the local railroad that ran through Port Huron to Detroit. He seems to have spent much of his free time reading scientific and technical books, and also had the opportunity at this time to learn how to operate a telegraph. By the time he died on October 18, 1931, Thomas Edison had amassed a record 1,093 patents, 389 for electric light and power, 195 for the phonograph, 150 for the telegraph, 141 for storage batteries and 34 for the telephone. Still life of the first electric light bulb, invented by Thomas Alva Edison in 1879 and patented on January 27, 1880, though he didn't come up with the whole concept, his light bulb was the first that proved practical and affordable for home illumination. The chief function of the body is to carry the brain around. Thomas A. Edison. Light up your life and the lives of others by awakening the full capacity of your brain. Ricky Singh. Henry Ford. Don't find fault, find a remedy. Henry Ford, July 30, 1863, April 7, 1947, was an American industrialist and business magnate, founder of the Ford Motor Company, and chief developer of the assembly line technique of mass production. By creating the first automobile that middle-class Americans could afford, he converted the automobile from an expensive curiosity into an accessible conveyance that profoundly impacted the landscape of the 20th century. Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason why so few engage in it. Henry Ford. If you think you can do a thing or think you can't do a thing, you're right. Henry Ford. Interesting facts. Henry Ford made extra money as a pocket watch repairman when he was in his early teens. A mechanical genius from a young age, Ford taught himself the craft of watch repair by repeatedly taking apart and putting back together a pocket watch given to him by his father. He even made his own tools to work on watches, including tiny screwdrivers he laboriously filed from old nails, and tweezers made from the spring steel bones from a discarded corset. Henry Ford was an American automobile manufacturer who created the Model T in 1908 and went on to develop the assembly line mode of production, which revolutionized the automotive industry. As a result, Ford sold millions of cars and became a world-famous business leader. It's no surprise then that, upon his death in 1947, Ford was worth the equivalent of $200 billion, 142 billion pounds, in today's money, and then some. A hard work ethic, commitment, compassion for others, and a desire to improve society were among Ford's leadership qualities. Known for being modest in his attire as well as personal interactions, Ford demonstrated true humility as a leader. Henry Ford's assembly line methods revolutionized factory production. Using his techniques, chassis assembly was reduced from 12.5 man-hours to 93 man-minutes by 1914. Assembly time reduction contributed to the drastic cut in price of the private automobile. This made cars affordable to the growing American middle class. Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. Henry Ford. Youth is filled with vigor. Keep pushing ahead with new ideas and dynamism. Never, ever give up. Ricky Singh. Mahatma Gandhi. You must be the change you wish to see in the world. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, October 1869, January 30, 1948, was an Indian lawyer, anti-colonial nationalist, and political ethicist, who employed non-violent resistance to lead the successful campaign for India's independence from British rule, and in turn inspired movements for civil rights and freedom across the world. The honorific Mahatma, Sanskrit, great-souled, venerable, first applied to him in 1914 in South Africa, is now used throughout the world. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Mahatma Gandhi. Strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. Mahatma Gandhi. Interesting facts. Gandhi fought for much more than independence. His causes included civil rights for women, the abolition of the caste system, and the fair treatment of all people regardless of religion. His mother and father had different religious traditions. Gandhi ate fruit, nuts, and seeds for 5 years but switched back to strict vegetarianism after suffering health problems. He maintained that each person should find their own diet that works best. Gandhi spent decades experimenting with food, logging the results, and tweaking his eating choices. He wrote a book named The Moral Basis of Vegetarianism. Gandhi established 3 football clubs in South Africa. All of them were called passive resistors. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, popularly known as Mahatma Gandhi or the Father of the Nation in India, undertook 18 fasts during India's freedom movement. His longest fast lasted 21 days. Fasting was a weapon used by Gandhi as part of his philosophy of ahimsa, non-violence, as well as satyagraha. Satisfaction lies in the effort, not in the attainment. Full effort is full victory. Mahatma Gandhi. Believe in yourself, follow your dreams, and give it your all. Develop your own sense of justice with an open mind. Ricky Singh. Bill Gates. As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. William Henry Gates III, born October 28, 1955, is an American business magnate, software developer, and philanthropist. He is a co-founder of Microsoft Corporation. During his career at Microsoft, Gates held the positions of Chairman, Chief Executive Officer, CEO, President, and Chief Software Architect, while also being the largest individual shareholder until May 2014. He is one of the best-known entrepreneurs and pioneers of the microcomputer revolution of the 1970s and 1980s. Being flooded with information doesn't mean we have the right information or that we're in touch with the right people. Bill Gates. We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. Bill Gates. Interesting facts. As a teen at Lakeside Prep School, Gates wrote his first computer program on a General Electric computer. It was a version of tic-tac-toe where you could play against the machine. Gates read the entire World Book Encyclopedia series during his teenage years. Bill Gates bought an operating system in which he renamed MS-DOS for IBM. He received profit from IBM for every MS-DOS product made, as IBM didn't own the licensing fee, and Gates refused to give it to them. At the age of 31, Gates became a billionaire owning 45% of his stock. Bill Gates is a technologist, business leader, and philanthropist. He grew up in Seattle, Washington, with an amazing and supportive family who encouraged his interest in computers at an early age. He dropped out of college to start Microsoft with his childhood friend Paul Allen. How to think like Bill Gates. 1. Prioritize. 2. Ask smarter questions. 3. Make data-driven decisions. 4. Divorce your ego. 5. Frame the problem. 6. Get perspectives on the problem. 7. Model the problem. 8. Think of the system and the ecosystem. 9. Think of the problem over time. 10. Think strategically. We all need people who will give us feedback. That's how we improve. Bill Gates. The joy of giving and serving the needy far exceeds the joys of accumulating and spending on yourself. Singh. PELÉ. Everything is practice. Nascimento do Nascimento, Brazilian Portuguese, born October 23, 1940, known as PELÉ, is a Brazilian former professional footballer who played as a forward. Regarded as one of the greatest players of all time and labeled the greatest by FIFA, he was among the most successful and popular sports figures of the 20th century. During his playing days, PELÉ was for a period the best paid athlete in the world. Sport is something very inspirational for young people. PELÉ. The World Cup is a very important way to measure the good players, and the great ones. It is a test of a great player. PELÉ. Interesting facts. PELÉ was born as Edson Arantes do Nascimento to Don Ginho and Dona Celeste Arantes. He was the first child of the couple. Struck by poverty, he took up various odd jobs as a child to earn extra money. He received his early lessons in soccer from his father and played for various amateur teams in his youth. As a boy, PELÉ used to play with a sock stuffed with paper as he could not afford to buy a football to keep in his home. At some point, he played football with mangoes during breaks. As a result, little monies he had, PELÉ had to took up various odd jobs as a child to earn extra money. PELÉ's electrifying play and penchant for scoring spectacular goals made him a star around the world. He led Brazil to 3 World Cup football, soccer, championships, 1958, 1962, and 1970. He scored 12 goals in World Cup play and tallied more than 1,000 goals in first-class matches. PELÉ has helped raise millions of pounds for charitable causes including Great Ormond Street and Harlem Street Soccer. Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice and most of all, love of what you are doing or learning to do. PELÉ. Keep your full attention on the ball and realize the goals of your life. One must discover the ball of one's life. Singh. Isaac Newton. We build too many walls and not enough bridges. Sir Isaac Newton PRS, December 25, 1642, March 20, 1726/27, was an English mathematician, physicist, astronomer, theologian, and author, described in his own day as a natural philosopher, who is widely recognized as one of the most influential scientists of all time and as a key figure in the scientific revolution. His book Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, first published in 1687, established classical mechanics. Newton also made seminal contributions to optics, and shares credit with Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz for developing the infinitesimal calculus. To every action there is always opposed an equal reaction. Sir Isaac Newton. My powers are ordinary. Only my application brings me success. Sir Isaac Newton. Interesting facts. Sometimes called the father of modern science, Isaac Newton revolutionized our understanding of our world. He was a real Renaissance man with accomplishments in several fields, including astronomy, physics and mathematics. Newton gave us new theories on gravity, planetary motion and optics. Newton was responsible for building the first practical telescope and developed a theory of color based on the observation that a prism decomposes white light into the many colors that form the visible spectrum. Newton also formulated an empirical law of cooling as well as studied the speed of sound. Isaac Newton changed the way we understand the universe. Revered in his own lifetime, he discovered the laws of gravity and motion and invented calculus. He helped to shape our rational worldview. Sir Isaac Newton revolutionized astronomy, mathematics, physics, and natural philosophy. He is recognized as one of the most influential intellectuals of all time and as a key catalyst for the scientific revolution. The famous tree from which the legendary Newton apple fell is still growing at Woolsthorpe Manor today. It is over 350 years old. If I have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. Be inspired by new ideas to unravel greater scientific truths. Try to see the outside world with fresh eyes. Spend time in nature. Ricky Singh. Coco Chanel. Fashion fades, only style remains the same. Gabrielle Bonheur. Coco Chanel, August 19, 1883, January 10, 1971, was a French fashion designer and businesswoman. The founder and namesake of the Chanel brand, she was credited in the post-World War I era with popularizing a sporty, casual chic as the feminine standard of style, replacing the corseted silhouette that was dominant beforehand. A prolific fashion creator, Chanel extended her influence beyond couture clothing, realizing her design aesthetic in jewelry, handbags, and fragrance. Her signature scent, Chanel No. 5, has become an iconic product. She is the only fashion designer listed on Time magazine's list of the 100 most influential people of the 20th century. Chanel herself designed her famed interlocked CC monogram, which has been in use since the 1920s. In order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different. Coco Chanel. The best color in the whole world is the one that looks good on you. Coco Chanel. Interesting facts. Born Gabrielle Chanel on August 19, 1883, the future fashion designer came from humble beginnings. After her mother died when Chanel was around 12, her peddler father put her and her two sisters in a convent-run orphanage. The nuns there taught her to sew, and the stark black and white of their habits began to inform her design aesthetic. What is Coco Chanel known for? Coco Chanel was a fashion designer known for such now classic innovations as the woman's suit, the quilted purse, costume jewelry, and the little black dress. She also introduced the phenomenally successful perfume Chanel No. Coco Chanel introduced pants for women. She outraged the fashion world when she wore pants in Venice, to make traveling by gondola easier. Coco Chanel decided that there was no comfortable way to ride a horse while wearing a long skirt. She was always a risk taker, which made her go places for sure. The story behind Chanel's iconic perfume is full of twists and turns. In the early 1920s, Chanel worked with perfumer Ernest Beau to create the scent. Reportedly, Chanel liked Beau's fifth sample, leading to the now famous name. Also, 5 was said to be her lucky number, but the scent, with notes of jasmine, rose, sandalwood, and vanilla, might have been the result of a laboratory mistake. The formula had an unusually high dose of aldehyde in it, a synthetic component that made the scent sparkle. The fragrance and its groundbreaking, minimalist bottle design would go on to become one of the best-selling and most recognized perfumes in the world. The best things in life are free. The second best things are very, very expensive. Coco Chanel. Just as there is outward fragrance, there is an inner fragrance. Learn to connect both. Ricky Singh. Wright brothers. The airplane stays up because it doesn't have the time to fall. The Wright brothers, Orville, August 19, 1871, January 30, 1948, and Wilbur, April 16, 1867, May 30, 1912 were two American aviation pioneers generally credited with inventing, building, and flying the world's first successful motor-operated airplane. They made the first controlled, sustained flight of a powered, heavier-than-air aircraft with the Wright Flyer on December 17, 1903, 4 miles, 6 kilometers, south of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. In 1904-05, the brothers developed their flying machine to make longer-running and more aerodynamic flights with the Wright Flyer 2, followed by the first truly practical fixed-wing aircraft, the Wright Flyer 3. The Wright brothers were also the first to invent aircraft controls that made fixed-wing powered flight possible. It is possible to fly without motors, but not without knowledge and skill. Wilbur Wright. If we all worked on the assumption that what is accepted as true is really true, there would be little hope of advancement. Orville Wright. Interesting facts. Orville and Wilbur Wright made the first successful self-propelled sustained flight on December 17, 1903. The flight lasted 12 seconds, and the aircraft flew approximately 20 feet, 6 meters, above the ground for 120 feet, 36 meters. In 1878, when Wilbur was 11 and Orville 7, their father gave them a helicopter-like toy to share. It was based on an invention by Alphonse Pénaud and was made of paper, bamboo and cork with a rubber band to twirl the motor. The brothers later said this toy was the beginning of an obsession with flying machines. The Wright brothers sold the plane for $30,000. The Wright brothers' extraordinary success led to contracts in both Europe and the United States, and they soon became wealthy business owners. They began building a grand family home in Dayton, where they had spent much of their childhood. Inspired by birds, bats, and the Wright brothers, engineers are building the next breakthrough in aviation. Since at least the myth of Icarus, wings seen in nature have inspired humanity's dreams of flight. It is possible to fly without motors, but not without knowledge and skill. Wilbur Wright. Without a belief that flying in the sky is possible, the airplane would have never been invented. Ricky Singh. Sigmund Freud. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. Sigmund Freud, May 6, 1856, September 23, 1939, was an Austrian neurologist and the founder of psychoanalysis, a clinical method for treating psychopathology through dialogue between a patient and a psychoanalyst. Freud was born to Galician Jewish parents in the Moravian town of Freiburg, in the Austrian Empire. He qualified as a doctor of medicine in 1881 at the University of Vienna. Upon completing his habilitation in 1885, he was appointed a docent in neuropathology and became an affiliated professor in 1902. Freud lived and worked in Vienna, having set up his clinical practice there. In 1886. In 1938, Freud left Austria to escape Nazi persecution. He died in exile in the United Kingdom in 1939. What a distressing contrast there is between the radiant intelligence of the child and the feeble mentality of the average adult. Sigmund Freud. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. Sigmund Freud. Interesting facts. Freud is famous for inventing and developing the technique of psychoanalysis, for articulating the psychoanalytic theory of motivation, mental illness, and the structure of the subconscious. Between 1915 and 1938, Freud was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Medicine 12 times and the Nobel in Literature once, yet was never awarded any of them. His critics charged that psychoanalysis was an unproven practice. Freud employed hypnotism when he opened his medical practice in Vienna in 1886, and he found it easier to put patients into trances if they were lying down. When he began to employ his talking cure in his psychoanalysis, Freud also had his patients recline on a couch while he took notes in a chair out of sight. 7 Freud was using animal companions to soothe anxious patients long before it was common. He sometimes allowed his dogs to sit in with his patients during appointments and noticed that they became measurably more relaxed. When the idea of therapy dogs was explored further in the 1960s, researchers drew support from Freud's writing about his dogs to help establish credibility for the approach. Although an atheist himself, Freud was born into a Jewish family and became a particular target of the Nazis when they rose to power. His books were among those burned by the Nazis in 1933, which caused him to quip, "What progress we are making. In the Middle Ages they would have burnt me, nowadays they are content with burning my books." In 2014, his cremated ashes were nearly snatched by thieves. The urn, which also contained the remains of his wife Martha, was damaged in the attempted theft. Crematorium employees then moved the urn from public display to a more secure location. From error to error, one discovers the entire truth. Sigmund Freud. Human behavior is the byproduct of the times we live in. By studying one's behavior, one achieves optimal growth. Ricky Singh. Albert Einstein. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Albert Einstein, March 14, 1879, April 18, 1955, was a German-born theoretical physicist who developed the theory of relativity, one of the two pillars of modern physics, alongside quantum mechanics. His work is also known for its influence on the philosophy of science. He is best known to the general public for his mass-energy equivalence formula E=mc², which has been dubbed the world's most famous equation. He received the 1921 Nobel Prize in Physics for his services to theoretical physics, and especially for his discovery of the law of the photoelectric effect, a pivotal step in the development of quantum theory. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge but imagination. Albert Einstein. The only source of knowledge is experience. Albert Einstein. Interesting facts. Einstein's parents thought he might be mentally retarded because he did not speak until he was 4 years old. He broke his silence one night at dinner saying, "The soup is too hot." When his parents asked why he had not spoken previously, the young Einstein responded, "Because up to now everything was in order." Still, he spoke only haltingly until he was 9 years old, practicing sentences in his head or under his breath until he got them right. Einstein's Big Idea homepage. E equals mc2. It's the world's most famous equation, but what does it really mean? Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. On the most basic level, the equation says that energy and mass, matter, are interchangeable, they are different forms of the same thing. After performing an autopsy on Einstein's body, pathologist Thomas Harvey kept his brain after the rest of the body was cremated. Despite violating Einstein's wishes, Harvey convinced Einstein's son to let him keep it for further study. Although Princeton fired Harvey, he kept Einstein's brain more than 40 years, chopping it into pieces and storing it in 2 mason jars. He occasionally sent pieces of the brain to specialists around the country, some of whom discovered unique attributes to the brain. In one test, the tissue appeared denser than in normal brains and the inferior parietal lobe was larger. Finally, in 1998, Harvey returned the brain to Princeton University saying, "Eventually you get tired of the responsibility of having it. Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions." Albert Einstein. E equals mc2 has always existed in nature. Einstein discovered it. What are you going to discover? Ricky Singh. Abraham Lincoln. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. Abraham Lincoln, February 12, 1809, April 15, 1865, was an American statesman and lawyer who served as the 16th President of the United States from 1861 until his assassination in 1865. Lincoln led the nation through the American Civil War, the country's greatest moral, cultural, constitutional, and political crisis. He succeeded in preserving the Union, abolishing slavery, bolstering the federal government, and modernizing the U.S. economy. Always bear in mind that your own resolution to succeed is more important than any other. Abraham Lincoln. Don't worry when you are not recognized but strive to be worthy of recognition. Abraham Lincoln. Interesting facts. Lincoln was born into poverty in a log cabin and was raised on the frontier primarily in Indiana. He was self-educated and became a lawyer, Whig Party leader, Illinois state legislator, and U.S. congressman from Illinois. In 1849, he returned to his law practice but became vexed by the opening of additional lands to slavery as a result of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. He re-entered politics in 1854, becoming a leader in the new Republican Party, and he reached a national audience in the 1858 debates against Stephen Douglas. Lincoln ran for president in 1860, sweeping the North in victory. Abraham Lincoln is famous for the Gettysburg Address, abolishing slavery and being one of the 4 presidents who have been assassinated. On April 14, 1865, Lincoln signed legislation creating the U.S. Secret Service. That evening, he was shot at Ford's Theater. Even if the Secret Service had been established earlier, it wouldn't have saved Lincoln. The original mission of the law enforcement agency was to combat widespread currency counterfeiting. It was not until 1901, after the killing of 2 other presidents, that the Secret Service was formally assigned to protect the Commander-in-Chief. Lincoln is enshrined in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. The great emancipator wasn't quite WWE material, but, thanks to his long limbs, he was an accomplished wrestler as a young man. Defeated only once in approximately 300 matches, Lincoln reportedly talked a little smack in the ring. According to Carl Sandburg's biography of Lincoln, Honest Abe once challenged an entire crowd of onlookers after dispatching an opponent. "I'm the big buck of this lick. If any of you want to try it, come on and wet your horns." There were no takers. Lincoln's grappling exploits earned him an outstanding American honor in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. He has a right to criticize, who has a heart to help. Abraham Lincoln. Develop your convictions and have the bravery to live accordingly. Ricky Singh. Louis Pasteur. Let me tell you the secret that has led me to my goal. My strength lies solely in my tenacity. Louis Pasteur, December 27, 1822, September 28, 1895, was a French biologist, microbiologist, and chemist renowned for his discoveries of the principles of vaccination, microbial fermentation, and pasteurization. He is remembered for his remarkable breakthroughs in the causes and prevention of diseases, and his discoveries have saved many lives ever since. He reduced mortality from puerperal fever and created the first vaccines for rabies and anthrax. Fortune favors the prepared mind. Louis Pasteur. Science is the highest personification of the nation because that nation will remain the first which carries the furthest the works of thought and intelligence. Louis Pasteur. Interesting facts. He pioneered the study of molecular asymmetry, discovered that microorganisms cause fermentation and disease, originated the process of pasteurization, saved the beer, wine, and silk industries in France, and developed vaccines against anthrax and rabies. Many scientists continued to believe that simple life forms were spontaneously generated, this despite the fact that a number of scientists, such as Théodore Schwann, had carried out work showing that microbes could not simply appear out of nowhere in dirty ponds or decaying meat. When they learned that Pasteur was going to enter the life debate, his scientific friends tried to dissuade him. It was too hot a topic to handle and they didn't want to see their friend burned. However, Pasteur's work in the laboratory had already convinced him that Schwann was correct. In 1860, the French Academy announced a prize of 2,500 francs to anyone who provided convincing experimental proof for or against spontaneous generation of life. Pasteur was awarded the prize in 1862. He showed that no microbes ever grew in nutrient solutions that had been sterilized by heating, provided the air above the solutions was also sterilized. If unsterilized air was allowed into the space above the solutions, microbes began growing in the solutions. The microbes were present in the unheated air. To create the vaccine for rabies, Pasteur infected a group of rabbits. He went on to remove some of the infected tissue, dried it out, and then reinserted it into the rabbits. This is the concept behind a vaccine, using the disease to fight itself. When I approach a child, he inspires in me two sentiments: tenderness for what he is, and respect for what he may become. Louis Pasteur. An inventive mind can impact all of humanity. Be passionate about finding new solutions to human problems. Ricky Singh. Warren Buffett. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. Warren Edward Buffett, born August 30, 1930, is an American investor, business tycoon, philanthropist, and the chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. He is considered one of the most successful investors in the world and has a net worth of over US $85.6 billion as of December 2020, making him the world's fourth wealthiest person. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Warren Buffett. The best thing I did was to choose the right heroes. Warren Buffett. Interesting facts. What does Warren Buffett own? Through his holding company Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett owns stakes in Apple, Bank of America, American Express, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Coca-Cola, Visa, MasterCard, and Kraft Heinz. Warren Buffett made $53,000 by the age of 16. Even since he was young, Buffett's been not only tactful, but also an extremely hard worker. At age 6, Buffett traveled his neighborhood, selling sticks of gun in packs of 5 for a nickel each. When Buffett's father became a congressman, his family moved from Omaha, Nebraska, to Washington, D.C. Buffett delivered the Washington Post every morning and brought in about $175 a month. That's more than most teachers made during that time. He also pursued a few side gigs such as selling used golf balls and collector stamps and buffing cars. By the time he turned 16, he had amassed the equivalent of $53,000. For breakfast, Buffett often frequents McDonald's for a bacon, egg and cheese biscuit if the market is up, or an austere 2 sausage patties if the market is down. On most days, Buffett will visit his beloved Dairy Queen for an ice cream dessert. When you think of a billionaire, you typically think of mansions, vacation homes and expensive cars. Buffett has lived in the same Omaha house since 1958 that he originally bought for $31,500. The house is a simple 5-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom house. In June 2006, Buffett announced that he planned to donate more than 80% of his wealth to a handful of private charitable foundations. I always knew I was going to be rich. I don't think I ever doubted it for a minute. Warren Buffett. Simple living, high thinking, and best planning leads to wealth. Ricky Singh. Napoleon Bonaparte. Impossible is a word to be found only in the Dictionary of Fools. Napoleon Bonaparte, August 15, 1769, May 5, 1821, was a French military and political leader. He rose to prominence during the French Revolution and led several successful campaigns during the Revolutionary Wars. As Napoleon I, he was Emperor of the French from 1804 until 1814, and again in 1815. Napoleon dominated European and global affairs for more than a decade while leading France against a series of coalitions in the Napoleonic Wars. He won most of these wars and the vast majority of his battles, building a large empire that ruled over continental Europe before its final collapse in 1815. One of the greatest commanders in history, his wars and campaigns are studied at military schools worldwide. The strong man is the one who is able to intercept at will the communication between the senses and the mind. Napoleon Bonaparte. Men take only their needs into consideration, never their abilities. Napoleon Bonaparte. Interesting facts. Napoleon served as first consul of France from 1799 to 1804. In that time, Napoleon reformed the French educational system, developed a civil code, the Napoleonic Code, and negotiated the Concordat of 1801. He also initiated the Napoleonic Wars, circa 1801-15, a series of wars that carried over into his reign as Emperor of France, 1804 to 1415. As Emperor Napoleon I, he modernized the French military. From 1803 to 1815, France was engaged in the Napoleonic Wars, a series of major conflicts with various coalitions of European nations. In 1803, partly as a means to raise funds for future wars, Napoleon sold France's Louisiana Territory in North America to the newly independent United States for $15 million, a transaction that later became known as the Louisiana Purchase. Between 1801 and 1857, Napoleon built a fort on the Atlantic Ocean named Fort Boyard. The 68 by 31 meter fortification rises straight out of the Atlantic Ocean, standing 20 meters tall. Its original purpose was for defense, though it later housed a prison. Building Boyard was a feat of engineering. The idea was proposed in 1692, but Louis XIV was told, "Your Majesty, it would be easier to seize the moon with your teeth than to attempt such an undertaking in such a place." As one of the greatest military commanders in French history, his war tactics are still being studied at military schools globally. This has made him one of the most celebrated and controversial leaders in history. He was respected by his army men for his tactics in the field. The truest wisdom is a resolute determination. Napoleon Bonaparte. Determination comes from self-mastery. Self-mastery comes from desire to conquer one's limitations. Singh. Billie Jean King. Champions keep playing until they get it right. Billie Jean King, née Moffat, born November 22, 1943, is an American former world #1 professional tennis player. King won 39 Grand Slam titles, 12 in singles, 16 in women's doubles, and 11 in mixed doubles. She often represented the United States in the Federation Cup and the Whiteman Cup. She was a member of the victorious United States team in 7 Federation Cups and 9 Whiteman Cups. For 3 years, she was the United States captain in the Federation Cup. Be bold. If you're going to make an error, make a doozy, and don't be afraid to hit the ball. Billie Jean King. That is where the power, opportunity, and choice come from when you have money. Money equals opportunity. There is no question. Billie Jean King. Interesting facts. Billie Jean King first encountered gender inequality at the age of 12, while participating in a tournament at the Los Angeles Tennis Club. It was 1955, and Billie Jean was barred from a group photo of junior tennis players because she had decided to wear tennis shorts that day, rather than the tennis skirt traditionally worn by female athletes. She soon learned that the unequal treatment that female athletes experienced wasn't only relegated to dress code. Recognizing the disparity of pay between men and women, King became an advocate for gender equality in the sport of tennis. Additionally, along with her husband, King founded the World Team Tennis Co-ed Circuit and the Women's Sports Foundation. In the 1960s and 1970s, the tournament payouts for women tennis players were significantly lower than those received by the male players. In 1971, Billie Jean became the first woman athlete to earn over $100,000 in prize money. Yet when she won the US Open in 1972, she received $15,000 less than the men's champion. Needless to say, this didn't sit well with the young progressive. In 1973, she lobbied for equal prize money for men and women at the US Open, and as a result of her efforts, a sponsor was found to level the playing field. As a result of her advocacy, the US Open became the first major tournament to offer equal prize money to both sexes. All 4 Grand Slams now offer equal prize money to women and men. The main thing is to care. Care very hard, even if it is only a game you are playing. Billie Jean King. Practice leads to perfection. The right aim, force, and training leads to an ace in tennis. This is true in all areas of life. Singh. Ratan Tata. If it stands the test of public scrutiny, do it. If it doesn't stand the test of public scrutiny, then don't do it. Ratan Naval Tata, born December 28, 1937, is an Indian industrialist, philanthropist, and a former chairman of Tata Sons. He was also chairman of Tata Group, from 1990 to 2012, and again, as interim chairman, from October 2016 through February 2017, and continues to head its charitable trusts. He is the recipient of two of the highest civilian awards of India, the Padma Vibhushan, 2008, and Padma Bhushan, 2000. I have been constantly telling people to encourage people, to question the unquestioned and not to be ashamed to bring up new ideas, new processes to get things done. Ratan Tata. If you want to walk fast, walk alone. But, if you want to walk far, walk together. Ratan Tata. Interesting facts. Tata companies were the first to provide branded salt in India, first to curate branded jewelry in India, and the first to sell retail steel in India. The pioneering nature of the brand is well recognized. Ratan Tata was born on 1937 in Surat, Gujarat. His father's name was Naval Tata while Suni Tata was his mother. Naval Tata was the adopted grandson of Jamshedji Tata, founder of the Tata Group. He started his career with Tata Group in 1962 at the age of 25. He later went to Harvard Business School to complete his studies. He is also an alumnus of the Cornell University College of Architecture. Why Ratan Tata is not on the list of richest men in India? This is because 65% of the families and the company's fortune is given away as charity. Hence, any profit made by the company doesn't impact Ratan Tata's personal financial statement and goes straight to charitable organizations. There are many important lessons to be learned from Ratan Tata's life story and the Tata Group's concept of a benevolent employer. Caring for its employees' needs and for the wider community has made it a household name for trust and integrity across the Indian subcontinent. Getting involved with personal investments as I have been trying to support startups. It's been a learning experience for me. With humility, I have to say that I haven't brought any magic with me, but I have chosen to support enterprises that seem to attract me from a founder's position, what the company is trying to do. Challenges need to be given to an organization. Ratan Tata. The creation of an effective organization is a means of bringing into reality the vision of the founder. Singh. Thurgood Marshall. In recognizing the humanity of our fellow beings, we pay ourselves the highest tribute. Thurgood Marshall, July 2, 1908, January 24, 1993, was an American lawyer and civil rights activist who served as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States from October 1967 until October 1991. Marshall was the court's first African American justice. Prior to his judicial service, he successfully argued several cases before the Supreme Court, including Brown v. Board of Education. Numerous memorials have been dedicated to Marshall. Each of you, as an individual, must pick your own goals. Listen to others, but do not become a blind follower. 3 Thurgood Marshall. Where you see wrong or inequality or injustice, speak out, because this is your country. This is your democracy. Make it. Protect it. Pass it on. Thurgood Marshall. Interesting facts. His father, William, worked as a steward at an all-white country club. His mother, Norma, was a kindergarten teacher. His grandfather was a slave who gained his freedom by escaping from the South during the Civil War. Marshall was a good student in school, but often got into trouble for misbehaving. Thurgood Marshall, who became the first African American Supreme Court Justice, 1967 to 1991, knocked down legal segregation in America as a civil rights attorney. After founding the NAACP Legal Defense Fund in 1940, Marshall became the key strategist in the effort to end racial segregation, in particular meticulously challenging Plessy v. Ferguson, the court-sanctioned legal doctrine that called for separate but equal structures for white and blacks. Thurgood Marshall, perhaps best known as the first African American Supreme Court Justice, played an instrumental role in promoting racial equality during the civil rights movement. As a practicing attorney, Marshall argued a record-breaking 32 cases before the Supreme Court, winning 29 of them. As a child in Baltimore, Marshall developed an interest in the law when his father William, a country club steward, took him to observe legal arguments at local courts. Thurgood and his father then had lengthy discussions around the dinner table during which Thurgood's father fought every statement his son made. Justice Marshall said of his father in 1965, "He never told me to be a lawyer, but he turned me into one." Our whole constitutional heritage rebels at the thought of giving government the power to control men's minds. Thurgood Marshall. Never underestimate the power of passion that is awakened by a mentor or a father figure. Singh. Benjamin Franklin. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Benjamin Franklin, January 17, 1706, April 17, 1790, was one of the founding fathers of the United States. A polymath, he was a leading writer, printer, political philosopher, politician, Freemason, postmaster, scientist, inventor, humorist, civic activist, statesman, and diplomat. As a scientist, he was a major figure in the American Enlightenment and the history of physics for his discoveries and theories regarding electricity. As an inventor, he is known for the lightning rod, bifocals, and the Franklin stove, among other inventions. He founded many civic organizations, including the Library Company, Philadelphia's first fire department, and the University of Pennsylvania. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Benjamin Franklin. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. Benjamin Franklin. Interesting facts. The man considered the most brilliant American of his age rarely saw the inside of a classroom. Franklin spent just 2 years attending Boston Latin School and a private academy before joining the family candle and soap-making business. By age 12, he was serving as an indentured apprentice at a printing shop owned by his brother, James. Young Benjamin made up for his lack of schooling by spending what little money he earned on books, often going without food to afford new volumes. He also honed his composition skills by reading essays and articles and then rewriting them from memory. Despite being almost entirely self-taught, Franklin later helped found the school that became the University of Pennsylvania and received honorary degrees from Harvard, Yale, the College of William and Mary, the University of St. Andrews and Oxford. Benjamin Franklin is the only founding father to have signed all 4 of the key documents establishing the U.S., the Declaration of Independence, 1776, the Treaty of Alliance with France, 1778, the Treaty of Paris establishing peace with Great Britain, 1783, and the U.S. Constitution, 1787. Benjamin Franklin made important scientific contributions regarding the nature of electricity. Among his findings was the fact that the positive and negative charges, or states of electrification of bodies, had to occur in exactly equal amounts, a crucial scientific principle known today as the law of conservation of charge. He adopted 13 virtues: temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, and humility, and attempted to improve one per week. He argued that the most difficult one for him was order, because his good memory made it unnecessary. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy and wise. Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin is immortalized on the $100 bill. How do you want to be remembered? Ricky Singh. Stephen Hawking. Science is not only a disciple of reason but, also, one of romance and passion. Stephen William Hawking, January 8, 1942, March 14, 2018, was an English theoretical physicist, cosmologist, and author who was director of research at the Center for Theoretical Cosmology at the University of Cambridge at the time of his death. He was the Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at the University of Cambridge between 1979 and 2009. Hawking was diagnosed with an early-onset slow-progressing form of motor neuron disease, also known as amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, that gradually paralyzed him over the decades. After the loss of his speech, he was able to communicate through a speech-generating device, initially through use of a handheld switch, and eventually by using a single cheek muscle. To confine our attention to terrestrial matters would be to limit the human spirit. Stephen Hawking. Look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious. Stephen Hawking. Interesting facts. Upon his ALS diagnosis, Hawking was told he only had 2.5 years to live. After falling while ice skating during his first year as a grad student at Cambridge University, Hawking was told he had the degenerative motor neuron disease amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, and had only 2.5 years to live. The theory of everything is a proposed notion in the scientific community which states that there is one all-encompassing theory that proposes a framework of understanding of all of physics, combining the quantum mechanics and classical physics into a unified approach which explains the laws of the universe. Stephen Hawking's computer-generated voice was known to millions of people around the world, a robotic drawl that somehow enhanced the profound impact of the cosmological secrets he revealed. It was linked to an early speech synthesizer, which turned Hawking's text into spoken language. Hawking believed that developing better technology was imperative for human survival. But he was also very concerned about the pursuit of artificial intelligence, or AI. Alongside the benefits, AI will also bring dangers, like powerful autonomous weapons, or new ways for the few to oppress the many, he said in 2014 at the launch for the Center for the Future of Intelligence at Cambridge University. In the future, AI could develop a will of its own, a will that is in conflict with ours, he continued. The rise of powerful AI will be either the best, or the worst thing, ever to happen to humanity. We do not yet know which. When one's expectations are reduced to zero, one really appreciates everything one does have. Stephen Hawking. Keep your mind healthy, fresh, and alive. The body is a tool for the mind. The mind is a tool for the spirit. Ricky Singh. Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it's done. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, July 18, 1918, December 5, 2013, was a South African anti-apartheid revolutionary, political leader and philanthropist who served as President of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. He was the country's first black head of state and the first elected in a fully representative democratic election. His government focused on dismantling the legacy of apartheid by tackling institutionalized racism and fostering racial reconciliation. Ideologically an African nationalist and socialist, he served as the president of the African National Congress, ANC party from 1991 to 1997. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. 3. Nelson Mandela. It is wise to persuade people to do things and make them think it was their own idea. Nelson Mandela. Interesting facts. Nelson Mandela grew up in poverty. His father died and he went to live with his uncle who wanted to marry him off to one of the village girls. But Nelson had other plans. He ran away to the big city of Johannesburg and it was there that he came into contact with apartheid, which means apartness. Although he was arrested and imprisoned for 27 years for fighting for freedom, Mandela refused to give up the struggle or give in to hate. Mandela was fighting against apartheid, but he was also fighting for something, a better world, in which the freedom, justice and dignity of all were respected. 5. He showed this while creating a new South Africa, dismantling apartheid and keeping the peace amongst the people while tackling racism, poverty and inequality. He established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, providing a safe place to investigate past human rights abuses, avoiding civil war and bloodshed. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 1993 to Nelson R. Mandela and Frederick Willem de Klerk for their work for the peaceful termination of the apartheid regime, and for laying the foundations for a new democratic South Africa. Nelson Mandela has always believed in the youth as the rock on which the future is built. He has promoted education as a key instrument of liberation. So much of his post-1999 charitable work was directed at the needs of young people in South Africa and around the world, primarily through his legacy organizations. After his release from prison in 1990, he had a particular affinity for children and youth, enjoying their company and finding it easy to engage them with disarming humor and spontaneous delight. If you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy. Then he becomes your partner. Nelson Mandela. You can disagree with others without feeling ill will or animosity towards them. Nelson Mandela is a perfect example of this quality. Ricky Singh. Walt Disney. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Walter Elias Disney, December 5, 1901, December 15, 1966, was an American entrepreneur, animator, writer, voice actor and film producer. A pioneer of the American animation industry, he introduced several developments in the production of cartoons. As a film producer, Disney holds the record for most Academy Awards earned by an individual, having won 22 Oscars from 59 nominations. He was presented with 2 Golden Globe Special Achievement Awards and an Emmy Award, among other honors. Several of his films are included in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. Disneyland will never be completed. It will continue to grow as long as there is imagination left in the world. Walt Disney. Movies can and do have tremendous influence in shaping young lives in the realm of entertainment towards the ideals and objectives of normal adulthood. 4. Walt Disney. Interesting facts. He dropped out of high school. During the First World War, a 16-year-old Walt left school and attempted to enlist in the army. He was rejected for being underage but managed to find employment with the Red Cross as an ambulance driver. Disney started a small studio of his own in 1922 and acquired a second-hand movie camera with which his company made 1- and 2-minute animated advertising films for distribution to local movie theaters. They also did a series of animated cartoon sketches called Laugh-O-Grams and the pilot film for a series of 7-minute fairy tales that combined both live action and animation, Alice in Cartoonland. A New York film distributor cheated the young producer, and Disney was forced to file for bankruptcy in 1923. Disney moved to California in the early 1920s and set up the Disney Brothers studio with his brother Roy. With UBI Works, Walt developed the character Mickey Mouse in 1928, His first highly popular success, he also provided the voice for his creation in the early years. As the studio grew, Disney became more adventurous, introducing synchronized sound, full-color 3-strip Technicolor, feature-length cartoons and technical developments in cameras. The results, seen in features such as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1937, Pinocchio, Fantasia, both 1940, Dumbo, 1941, and Bambi, 1942, furthered the development of animated film. New animated and live-action films followed after World War II, including the critically successful Cinderella, 1950, and Mary Poppins, 1964, the latter of which received 5 Academy Awards. We have created characters and animated them in the dimension of depth, revealing through them to our perturbed world that the things we have in common far outnumber and outweigh those that divide us. Walt Disney. Have fun with art. Keep drawing, painting, and dancing. Ricky Singh. Steve Jobs. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. Stephen Paul Jobs, February 24, 1955, October 5, 2011, was an American business magnate, industrial designer, investor, and media proprietor. He was the chairman, chief executive officer, CEO, and co-founder of Apple Incorporated, the chairman and majority shareholder of Pixar, a member of the Walt Disney Company's board of directors following its acquisition of Pixar, and the founder, chairman, and CEO of Next. Jobs is widely recognized as a pioneer of the personal computer revolution of the 1970s and 1980s, along with Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. 2 Jobs was born in San Francisco, California, and put up for adoption. He was raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. He attended Reed College in 1972 before dropping out that same year and traveled through India in 1974 seeking enlightenment and studying Zen Buddhism. My favorite things in life don't cost any money. It's really clear that the most precious resource we all have is time. Steve Jobs. Be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. Steve Jobs. Interesting facts. One of Steve's favorite hobbies growing up was working with electronics in his garage with his dad. They would take apart electronics like radios and then put them back together. Steve was a smart student but got bored with school. He often played pranks on others, getting into trouble. Though Jobs had long, unkempt hair and eschewed business garb, he managed to obtain financing, distribution, and publicity for the company, Apple Computer, Incorporated in 1977, the same year that the Apple II was completed. The machine was an immediate success, becoming synonymous with the boom in personal computers. In 1981 the company had a record-setting public stock offering, and in 1983 it made the quickest entrance, to that time, into the Fortune 500 list of America's top companies. In 1983 the company recruited PepsiCo Incorporated, President John Sculley to be its chief executive officer, CEO, and, implicitly, Jobs' mentor in the fine points of running a large corporation. Jobs had convinced Sculley to accept the position by challenging him, "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life?" The line was shrewdly effective, but it also revealed Jobs' own near-messianic belief in the computer revolution. In 2001 Jobs started reinventing Apple for the 21st century. That was the year that Apple introduced iTunes, a computer program for playing music and for converting music to the compact MP3 digital format commonly used in computers and other digital devices. Later the same year, Apple began selling the iPod, a portable MP3 player, which quickly became the market leader. In 2003 Apple began selling downloadable copies of major record company songs in MP3 format over the internet. By 2006 more than 1 billion songs and videos had been sold through Apple's online iTunes store. In recognition of the growing shift in the company's business, Jobs officially changed the name of the company to Apple Incorporated on January 9, 2007. For you to sleep well at night, the aesthetic, the quality, has to be carried all the way through. Steve Jobs. Create a legacy that affects millions of people, one thought at a time. Ricky Singh. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam. If you want to shine like a sun, first burn like a sun. Aval Pakar Jainul Abdin Abdul Kalam, 15, October 1931, July 27, 2015, was an Indian aerospace scientist and politician who served as the 11th President of India from 2002 to 2007. He was born and raised in Rameswaram, Tamil Nadu and studied physics and aerospace engineering. He spent the next 4 decades as a scientist and science administrator, mainly at the Defence Research and Development Organisation, DRDO, and Indian Space Research Organisation, ISRO, and was intimately involved in India's civilian space program and military missile development efforts. He thus came to be known as the Missile Man of India for his work on the development of ballistic missile and launch vehicle technology. He also played a pivotal organizational, technical, and political role in India's Pokhran II nuclear tests in 1998, the first since the original nuclear test by India in 1974. The bird is powered by its own life and by its motivation. APJ Abdul Kalam. Ultimately, education in its real sense is the pursuit of truth. It is an endless journey through knowledge and enlightenment. APJ Abdul Kalam. Interesting facts. The problems faced by Kalam are, as he was a son of a boatman, he was facing many difficulties with his studies. He wasn't having money to continue his studies, so he sold newspapers and earns money. There were no electricity in his home, so he used to read under the street light. Kalam was a hard-working boy right from the beginning. At the tender age of 5, he started selling newspapers to help his father support the family. He did this job in the evenings after school. He also spent a great deal of time on his studies. Kalam missed an opportunity to become a fighter pilot for the Indian Air Force. He was on the 9th spot on the list, and there were only 8 openings. The first 8 shortlisted candidates were recruited. He was once asked by a journalist how would he like to be remembered, as a scientist, a president or a teacher. And he replied smilingly, "I want to be remembered as a teacher first and then as any other person." APJ Abdul Kalam won many awards, both from the Indian government and from the international community. His most notable awards were the Padma Vibhushan and Bharat Ratna for his contributions to science. Science is global. Einstein's equation, E equals mc2, has to reach everywhere. Science is a beautiful gift to humanity, we should not distort it. Science does not differentiate between multiple races. APJ Abdul Kalam. Education is the key to upward socio-economic mobility. Ricky Singh. Reinhold Messner. A tourist follows a trail. Mountaineer finds one. Reinhold Andreas, born September 17, 1944, is an Italian mountaineer, explorer, and author. He made the first solo ascent of Mount Everest and, along with Peter Habler, the first ascent of Everest without supplemental oxygen. He was the first climber to ascend all 14 peaks over 8,000 meters, 26,000 feet, above sea level. Messner was the first to cross Antarctica and Greenland with neither snowmobiles nor dog sleds. He also crossed the Gobi Desert alone. Messner has published more than 80 books, only a quarter of which have been translated into English, about his experiences as a climber and explorer. In 2018, he received jointly with Christoph Wielicke the Princess of Asturias Award in the category of sports. "I was the first man to climb the world's 14 tallest peaks without supplementary oxygen, but I never asked how high I would go, just how I would do it." Reinhold Messner. Climbing is all about freedom, the freedom to go beyond all the rules and take a chance, to experience something new, to gain insight into human nature. Reinhold Messner. Interesting facts. Sometime between 1 and 2 in the afternoon on May 8, 1978, Messner and Habler achieved what was believed to be impossible, the first ascent of Mount Everest without oxygen. Messner's landmark solo ascent of Everest in 1980 was remarkable. After 3 days of exhausting climbing on the north side of the mountain, which included a fall into a crevasse, on August 20 he stood on the summit. As he described it later, "I was in continual agony. I have never in my whole life been so tired as on the summit of Everest that day. I just Saturday there, oblivious to everything. I knew I was physically at the end of my tether." In 1989-90, Messner and German Arvid Fuchs became the first people to traverse Antarctica via the South Pole by foot without either animals or machines. Their journey, which covered some 1,740 miles, 2,800 kilometers, was accomplished in 92 days. Another notable adventure was Messner's 1,250-mile, 2,000 kilometers, solo trek across the Gobi Desert, in Mongolia in 2004. He also established a series of mountain-themed museums in the Alps of northern Italy, beginning with one near Bolzano in 2006. During all his life, even after the end of his political career, he has been a strong supporter of green and environmentalist policies and an activist in the fight against global warming. "In my state of spiritual abstraction, I no longer belong to myself and to my eyesight. I am nothing more than a single narrow gasping lung, floating over the mists and summits." Reinhold Messner. Clarity of vision is important if one wants to achieve great heights. Ricky Singh. Frank Earl Shankwitz. At Make-A-Wish, life-changing wishes start with you. Frank Earl Shankwitz, March 8, 1943, January 24, 2021, was an American philanthropist who was a co-founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. He has received the President's Call to Service Award, the Making a Difference in the World, the Making a World of Difference and the Ellis Island Medal of Honor Awards. In 2019, a documentary film was made, telling the story of Shankwitz, his life and his foundation. A wish helps kids look past their limitations, families overcome anxiety and entire communities experience joy. Make-A-Wish Foundation. Together, we create life-changing wishes for children with critical illnesses. Make-A-Wish Foundation. Interesting facts. Frank Shankwitz, an Arizona Highway Patrol officer who, after helping a terminally ill boy realize his dream of becoming a motorcycle cop, co-founded the Make-A-Wish Foundation and served as its first president. Shankwitz, along with his wife Kitty and several others, founded the Make-A-Wish Foundation in 1980, with Shankwitz being the first president/CEO until 1984. 34 years later, in 2014, the Make-A-Wish Foundation has grown to 64 chapters in the United States, 36 international chapters, covering 5 continents, and has granted over 500,000 wishes worldwide. Nearly 40,000 volunteers generously give their time and energy to fulfill the Make-A-Wish mission. Once the child is deemed medically eligible, Make-A-Wish Foundation sends wish granters to learn the child's one true wish. These passionate volunteers help children explore their imaginations to come up with the wish that will be the most impactful for them. Wishes generally would fall into one of these categories. I wish to have. I wish to be. I wish to go. I wish to meet. I wish to give. A wish come true helps children feel stronger, more energetic, more willing and able to battle their critical illnesses. For many, the wish marks a turning point in the fight against their illnesses. Doctors, nurses and other health professionals say the wish experience works in concert with medicine to make their patients feel better emotionally and even physically. That is why wishes matter. That is why we grant wishes. Make-A-Wish Foundation. Giving the gift of a smile to a terminally ill child as a last wish is an act of true compassion. Ricky Singh. Milkha Singh. Hard work, willpower, and dedication. For a person with these qualities, the sky is limit. Milkha Singh, birth date uncertain, between 1929 and 1935, also known as the Flying Sikh, is an Indian former track and field sprinter who was introduced to the sport while serving in the Indian Army. He was the only Indian athlete to win an individual athletics gold medal at a Commonwealth Games until Krishna Punia won the discus gold medal at the 2010 Commonwealth Games. He also won gold medals in the 1958 and 1962 Asian Games. He represented India in the 1956 Summer Olympics in Melbourne, the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome and the 1964 Summer Olympics in Tokyo. He was awarded the Padma Shri, India's 4th highest civilian honor, in recognition of his sporting achievements. Don't be afraid of moving slowly. Be afraid of standing still. Milkha Singh. One can have many regrets in life, but they are temporary. There are lessons to learn from every mistake. Milkha Singh. Interesting facts. Born into a Sikh Rator family in Govindpura, Muzaffargarh in West Punjab, Milkha Singh is widely regarded as one of the world's greatest athletes. His forefathers, who were originally from Rajasthan, were ironsmiths. His father was a farmer with a small land holding. Partition separated Mr. Singh from both his family and home, forcing him to forge his own path. He eked out a living by working in a roadside restaurant before joining the Indian Army. It was in the army that Singh realized his abilities as a sprinter. After winning the national trials in the 200-meter and 400-meter sprints, he was eliminated during the preliminary heats for those events at the 1956 Olympic Games in Melbourne. Due to the harrowing and traumatic experience of partition in his childhood, Milkha was inclined to become a dacoit. Milkha was once sent to Tihar jail for traveling without a ticket by train. He was bailed after his sister sold off her jewelry. Milkha Singh created the record at the 1958 British Empire and Commonwealth Games after clocking 46.6 seconds, which was a new national record back then. His story is also captured in the film Bog Milkha Bog. It has been decades since Milkha Singh retired, but till today, very few Indian sprinters have come close to matching his caliber and the rich legacy that he left behind. Pakistan's General Ayub Khan bestowed the title Flying Sikh of India to Milkha Singh after his brilliant performance at the Asian Games. The then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru declared a holiday for a day to reward him for making the country proud, after Milkha asked for it. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Milkha Singh. It is not where you start, but what you do during your journey that will decide where you will end up. Ricky Singh. Ronald Reagan. Peace is not absence of conflict, it is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. Ronald Wilson Reagan, February 6, 1911, June 5, 2004, was an American politician who served as the 40th President of the United States from 1981 to 1989 and became a highly influential voice of modern conservatism. Prior to his presidency, he was a Hollywood actor and union leader before serving as the 33rd governor of California from 1967 to 1975. The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted, it belongs to the brave. Ronald Reagan. Each generation goes further than the generation preceding it because it stands on the shoulders of that generation. Ronald Reagan. Interesting facts. Reagan wanted to get involved in the entertainment industry. So, following his graduation from college in 1932, he auditioned for jobs at many different radio stations. He was hired by the University of Iowa to broadcast football games. Although he didn't make a lot at the University of Iowa job, other individuals recognized his talent. He was hired by another radio station in Davenport for a staff announcer's job. He quickly found another job as an announcer for the Chicago Cubs baseball team. Ronald Reagan rose to prominence initially as a film actor, appearing in more than 50 films, notably including Canuta Rockne, All-American, 1940, King's Row, 1942, and The Hasty Heart, 1950. Reagan later served as governor of California from 1967 to 1975, before being elected the 40th President of the United States in 1980. After his acting career began to decline in the 1950s, Reagan became the host of a television drama series, General Electric Theater, as well as spokesman for the General Electric Company. In the latter capacity he toured GE plants around the country, delivering inspirational speeches with a generally conservative, pro-business message. Ronald Reagan is largely credited with the demise of Soviet communism during the 1980s. As president, he worked to reduce the threat of war between the US and the USSR, to convince Soviet leaders that cooperation with the US would serve Soviet interests, and to encourage openness and democracy in the USSR. They say the world has become too complex for simple answers. They are wrong. Ronald Reagan. If one truly wants peace in the world, never give up fighting for it. By linking economic and political development, Reagan ended the Cold War. Ricky Singh. Edmund Hillary. It is not the mountain we conquer but ourselves. Sir Edmund Percival Hillary KGONZKBE, July 20, 1919, January 11, 2008, was a New Zealand mountaineer, explorer, and philanthropist. On May 29, 1953, Hillary and Sherpa mountaineer Tenzing Norgay became the first climbers confirmed to have reached the summit of Mount Everest. They were part of the 9th British expedition to Everest, led by John Hunt. From 1985 to 1988 he served as New Zealand's High Commissioner to India and Bangladesh and concurrently as Ambassador to Nepal. People do not decide to become extraordinary. They decide to accomplish extraordinary things. Edmund Hillary. Despite all I have seen and experienced, I still get the same simple thrill out of glimpsing a tiny patch of snow in a high mountain gully and feel the same urge to climb towards it. Edmund Hillary. Interesting facts. Edmund Hillary began climbing in New Zealand's Southern Alps while in high school, before working as a beekeeper during the summers and climbing mountains during the winters. After military service in World War II, he joined a party to the Central Himalayas in 1951 and later joined a mountaineering team planning to climb Mount Everest. Edmund Hillary never anticipated the acclaim that would follow the historic ascent. Throughout his experience of celebrity, he maintained a high level of humility. His main interest came to be the welfare of Nepal's Himalayan peoples, especially the Sherpas. He was knighted in 1953. In 2003 Hillary was made an honorary citizen of Nepal. 6 Following his ascent of Everest he devoted himself to assisting the Sherpa people of Nepal through the Himalayan Trust, which he established in 1960 and led until his death in 2008. His efforts are credited with the construction of many schools and hospitals in this remote region of the Himalayas. He was the honorary president of the American Himalayan Foundation, a United States non-profit body that helps improve the ecology and living conditions in the Himalayas. He was also the honorary president of Mountain Wilderness, an international NGO dedicated to the worldwide protection of mountains. I believe that of all the things I have done, exciting though many of them have been, there's no doubt in my mind that the most worthwhile have been the establishing of schools and hospitals, and the rebuilding of monasteries in the mountains. Edmund Hillary. Once reaching great heights, recognizing the needs of others, and assisting them is a sign of true greatness. Ricky Singh. Dale Carnegie. Success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get. Dale Carnegie, November 24, 1888, November 1, 1955, was an American writer and lecturer, and the developer of courses in self-improvement, salesmanship, corporate training, public speaking, and interpersonal skills. Born into poverty on a farm in Missouri, he was the author of How to Win Friends and Influence People, 1936, a bestseller that remains popular today. He also wrote How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, 1948, Lincoln the Unknown, 1932, and several other books. One of the core ideas in his books is that it is possible to change other people's behavior by changing one's behavior towards them. Do the hard jobs first. The easy jobs will take care of themselves. Dale Carnegie. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. Dale Carnegie. Interesting facts. Famed author and lecturer Dale Carnegie was born as Dale Carnegie on November 24, 1888, in Maryville, Missouri. His parents, James William and Amanda Elizabeth Carnegie, were impoverished farmers. When Carnegie was in middle school, his family moved to Warrensburg, Missouri. As a boy, Carnegie was unskilled in athletics but learned that he could still make friends and earn respect because he had a way with words. Carnegie was born into poverty on a farm in Missouri. In high school and college he was active in debating clubs. After graduating he was a salesman in Nebraska and an actor in New York City and finally taught public speaking at the YMCA. His classes became extremely successful, and Carnegie began lecturing to packed houses. To standardize his teaching methods he began publishing pamphlets, which he collected into book form as public speaking. In 1936, after years of intense research that included reading hundreds of biographies to learn how the world's greatest leaders achieved their success, Carnegie published just such a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Despite its modest initial print run of 5,000 copies, the book became a mammoth bestseller. Carnegie's book, like his classes, struck a chord with a population hungry for self-improvement, selling nearly 5 million copies during his lifetime while being translated into every major language. Carnegie gave $30 million, the bulk of his remaining fortune, to the Carnegie Corporation, which he hoped would help establish international laws and foster world peace. Flaming enthusiasm, backed up by horse sense and persistence, is the quality that most frequently makes for success. Dale Carnegie. Work on yourself, and the rest will follow. Ricky Singh. Clara Barton. Offering a hand up is not a handout. Clara Barton. Clarissa Harlow Barton, December 25, 1821, April 12, 1912, was a pioneering American nurse who founded the American Red Cross. She was a hospital nurse in the American Civil War, a teacher, and a patent clerk. Since nursing education was not then very formalized and she did not attend nursing school, she provided self-taught nursing care. Barton is noteworthy for doing humanitarian work and civil rights advocacy at a time before women had the right to vote. She was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1973. While soldiers can stand and fight, I can fight and feed them. Clara Barton. I may sometimes be willing to teach for nothing, but if paid at all, I shall never do a man's work for less than a man's pay. Clara Barton. Interesting facts. The youngest child, with 4 much older siblings, Clara did not have an easy childhood. Her mother was not kind to her. When she was 11, Clara's older brother David fell off a barn roof and was bedridden for the following 2 years. Young Clara helped nurse him back to health. When Miss Barton joined as nurse, she was out in charge of helping the wounded soldiers from the Union Army, also to scout for missing soldiers. She helped to heal many wounded soldiers, making her a hero, and earning the nickname, the Angel on the Battlefield. When the Civil War began, she worked as a battlefield nurse. One of the soldiers to whom she tended told her, "This is the second time you saved my life." He then explained that she had been his teacher in New Jersey. Clara risked her own life by being on the battlefield. Once, a bullet went through her sleeve and killed the soldier behind her. Clara Barton, 1904. Even in her later years, Barton was an advocate for women's rights. Barton very publicly spoke in favor of equal rights for women. 9 During Barton's time, gender discrimination was intense. Women were regarded lower than male counterparts. Barton experienced discrimination in a major way twice, when she was replaced with a male principal in a school she founded and when she was terminated in the U.S. Patent Office because she was a woman. These experiences made Barton firm about the equality of men and women, especially in employment. The door that nobody else will go in at seems always to swing open widely for me. Clara Barton. All people are equal irrespective of which side they represent in a battlefield or which gender they belong to in the workplace. Ricky Singh. Vinnie Kripalu. To experience true happiness, one must constantly push past adversity and negativity. Vinnie Kripalu is a medical doctor, practicing medicine in Wilmington, Delaware. He has an MBBS from University of Delhi and is currently board certified in internal medicine. Currently, he is the founder and CEO of Trinity Medical Associates, LLC, that utilizes diverse medical interventions based on an integrated vision of Dr. Kripalu. He is the recipient of many awards, including the Jefferson Award for Philanthropy, Top Doctor in 2019 and 2020, Delaware Today, Commendation of Excellence Award, and the Leonard Lang Award, by American College of Physicians. He is also the co-founder of Premier Charities Incorporated and Delaware Medical Relief Team. The fastest way to feel better about your life is to give time, money, and love. Vinnie Kripalou. Remember, quality over quantity in all your relationships. Vinnie Kripalou. Interesting facts. Dr. Kripalou is a true combination of extraordinary medical expertise with heart of gold. His ability to practice medicine based on his deep knowledge of medical sciences has benefited thousands of patients throughout the world. When serving the homeless via Premier Charities Incorporated, his interaction with all volunteers and all the needy being served is truly a sight to see. The love, grace, and spiritual oneness that emits from him has been and continues to be an inspiration to hundreds of people, including his family, friends, co-workers, and many others. To live beyond limited ego space is the most extraordinary quality of Dr. Kripalou. Dr. Kripalou also has a truly non-judgmental attitude when it comes to the deficiencies, problems, and/or limitations of others. His ability to focus on the good qualities of others, while keeping a broad practical perspective, allow him to remain free internally and keep serving the society with high personal energy. He is constantly aware that negative thinking and negative feelings destroy good personal energy, and he is extremely cautious to ensure that this good energy is never damaged. Dr. Kripalou also excels in long-distance running, where he completed a 100-mile race. He has completed many marathons and continues to live the philosophy of one has to live it to emit it by his constant focus of personal, physical, mental, social, spiritual development. This consistent focus on one's development has allowed him to excel in all areas of his life. His high energy level is easily felt and also contagious to those around him. As a paragon of self-development, medical expertise, absolute compassion, and grace towards all, Vinnie Kripalou is a beacon of light for all people, especially those who are in the helping professions. I have realized that all my energy should be spent on working on and improving myself. When I get better, the world gets better. Vinnie Kripalou expertise, humility, commitment to public service, and a heart of gold is a rare combination that we all can aspire to. Singh. Jesse Owens. The only victory that counts is the one over yourself. James Cleveland Jesse Owens, September 12, 1913, March 31, 1980, was an American track and field athlete and four-time gold medalist in the 1936 Olympic Games. Owens specialized in the sprints and the long jump and was recognized in his lifetime as perhaps the greatest and most famous athlete in track and field history. He set 3 world records and tied another, all in less than an hour, at the 1935 Big Ten track meet in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a feat that has never been equaled and has been called the greatest 45 minutes ever in sport. Find the good. It's all around you. Find it, showcase it, and you'll start believing in it. Jesse Owens. We all have dreams. But in order to make dreams come into reality, it takes an awful lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort. Jesse Owens. Interesting facts. Jesse Owens, the son of a sharecropper and grandson of a slave, achieved what no Olympian before him had accomplished. His stunning achievement of 4 gold medals at the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin has made him the best remembered athlete in Olympic history. 8 After developing into a track and field star at a Cleveland high school, Owens enrolled at The Ohio State University. While smashing records for the Ohio State Buckeyes track team, he became known as the Buckeye Bullet. Although he was the first black man elected captain of an Ohio State varsity team, Owens was barred from living in the on-campus dormitory because of the color of his skin. Jesse Owens was an American athlete. He is best remembered for his performance at the 1936 Berlin Olympics, where he won gold medals in the long jump, the 100 and 200 meter dashes, and the 4x100 meter relay. He was the first American track and field athlete to win 4 gold medals at a single Olympic Games. 6 Jesse won the gold medal in Nazi Germany with thousands of spectators rooting for his defeat. They believed that the Aryan race was superior and thus won the gold medal. After he won the gold medal, Roosevelt never publicly acknowledged Owens's triumphs, or the triumphs of any of the 18 African Americans who competed at the Berlin Olympics. Only white Olympians were invited to the White House in 1936. A number of explanations have been offered for the president's actions. The black Olympians who competed in Berlin were not recognized by the White House until 2016, when President Barack Obama invited the athletes' relatives to an event in celebration of their lives and accomplishments. Jesse Owens struggled to find work after the Olympics. He raced against horses for money and worked as a gas station attendant and a playground janitor. Using his fame to his advantage, Owens began working in public relations in the 1950s, traveling the country and making paid appearances at public events. A lifetime of training for just 10 seconds, Jesse Owens. Single-minded determination to succeed along with internal strength and confidence can overcome multiple obstacles. Ricky Singh. Bono. Music can change the world because it can change people. Paul David Hewson KBEOL, born May 10, 1960, known by his stage name Bono, is an Irish singer-songwriter, philanthropist, activist, venture capitalist, businessman, and actor. He is best known as the lead vocalist and primary lyricist of rock band U2. As a member of U2, Bono has received 22 Grammy Awards and has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. To be one, to be united is a great thing. But to respect the right to be different is maybe even greater. Bono. My heroes are the ones who survived doing it wrong, who made mistakes, but recovered from them. Bono. Interesting facts. Activism and social justice causes were all part of Bono's life, where he assisted African nations by co-founding TATA, EDISON, the One Campaign and Product Red. He performed benefit concerts and was praised for his philanthropic efforts, where he was granted honorary knighthood by Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom for his services to the music industry and humanitarian work. Bono utilized his successes in music to uplift people in various countries. The singer once had a near-death experience, but he won't share exactly what happened. Whatever it was, though, helped, if you can call it that, in the writing process for U2's album Songs of Experience, which was released in December 2017. It's just a thing that people have these extinction events in their lives. It could be psychological or it could be physical, he told Rolling Stone. And, yes, it was physical for me, but I think I have spared myself all that soap opera. What's even weirder is that this album specifically was going to have a mortality theme about it. How odd is that timing? Bono is very socially conscious, dabbling in a lot of different causes. He, his wife Ali, and fashion designer REAGAN created a line of clothing called Eden, which is just nude spelled backward, and helps to support developing countries. He also created a children's book in 2003 with two of his children called Peter and the Wolf, with proceeds going to the Irish Hospice Foundation. He actually goes to the countries he's fighting to help. In 1985, Bono and his wife spent almost 2 months in Ethiopia along with many other humanitarians in an effort to make the housing and sanitary situations better in an overpopulated camp of refugees. He also spent some time in El Salvador, where he actually witnessed an attack on a village by the military. As a rock star, I have two instincts: I want to have fun, and I want to change the world. I have a chance to do both. Bono. Music flows within us. Recognize this flow and allow yourself to grow and glow. Ricky Singh. LeBron James. I like criticism. It makes you strong. LeBron Raymond James Sr., born December 30, 1984, is an American professional basketball player for the Los Angeles Lakers of the National Basketball Association, NBA. Widely considered one of the greatest NBA players in history, his accomplishments include 4 NBA championships, 4 NBA Most Valuable Player, MVP, awards, 4 Finals MVP awards, and 2 Olympic gold medals. During his 17-year career, James holds the record for all-time playoffs points, is 3rd in all-time points, and 8th in career assists. James has been selected to the All-NBA First Team a record 13 times, made the All-Defensive First Team 5 times, and has been named an All-Star 17 times, including 3 All-Star MVP selections. I'm going to use all my tools, my God-given ability, and make the best life I can with it. LeBron James. I've always been an unselfish guy, and that's the only way I know how to play on the court, and I try to play to the maximum of my ability, not only for myself but for my teammates. LeBron James. Interesting facts. During 4th grade, LeBron and his mother moved houses around 6 times. James was worn out by the constant movement between houses, which made him miss around 100 school days. LeBron had a difficult childhood. His family was poor, and his father was in jail. James played both basketball and football in high school. Some have speculated that he could have easily gone pro with football. Earlier in his senior year, he broke his wrist during a game. Because of the 2-month recovery time, he decided to forego the football season to be fully healed for the senior basketball season. A locally known basketball prodigy since elementary school, James was named Ohio's Mr. Basketball, High School Player of the Year, 3 times, while leading Akron's St. Vincent St. Mary High School to 3 Ohio State championships in his 4 years on the team. He became a national media sensation in his junior year after appearing on the cover of Sports Illustrated, where he was billed by the magazine as the chosen one. James was the consensus National High School Player of the Year in his senior season, and he was selected by the Cleveland Cavaliers with the first overall selection of the 2003 NBA Draft. Additionally, He signed an unprecedented $90 million endorsement contract with the Nike shoe company before he ever played a professional game. LeBron has never let his fame go to his head. He set up the LeBron James Family Foundation. The foundation raises and donates money for several charities. These include Boys and Girls Clubs of America, After School All-Stars, the Children's Defense Fund, Gabriel's Angle Foundation and Onyx Zone. I never get too high on my stardom or what I can do. LeBron James. No matter how high you go in life, never forget your roots or where you came from. Ricky Singh. Christopher Reeve. A hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Christopher Dollier Reeve, September 25, 1952, October 10, 2004, was an American actor, director, and activist, best known for playing the main character and title role in the film Superman, 1978, and its 3 sequels. After his acclaimed performances in Superman and Superman 2, Reeve declined many roles in action movies, choosing instead to work in small films and plays with more complex characters. He later appeared in critically successful films such as The Bostonians, 1984, Street Smart, 1987, and The Remains of the Day, 1993, and in the play's 5th of July on Broadway. At first, dreams seem impossible, then improbable, and eventually inevitable. Christopher Reeve. Once you choose hope, anything's possible. Christopher Reeve. Interesting facts. The actor catapulted to stardom when, following a 2-year casting search, he was selected to play the titular superhero of Superman, 1978. The popularity of the film, and Reeve's winning portrayals of the Man of Steel and his alter ego, Clark Kent, spawned the release of Superman sequels in 1980, 1983 and 1987. In preparation for his role in the movie Superman, he had to undergo an intense bodybuilding regime supervised by David Prowse, who played Darth Vader in the original Star Wars trilogy, for 2 months. He doubled his food intake and adopted a high-protein diet for his role. In May 1995, Reeve became paralyzed from the neck down when he sustained a severe cervical spinal injury in a horse riding accident. Despite being confined to a wheelchair and needing a respirator to assist with his breathing, he became heavily involved in campaigns supporting handicapped children and paraplegics, testifying before a Senate subcommittee in favor of federal funding for stem cell research. Reeve tirelessly sought to overcome the limitations of his condition, undergoing an experimental operation in 2003 that enabled him to breathe for hours without use of his respirator. Reeve continued to work after ongoing rehabilitation. He returned to acting in a television production of Rear Window, 1998, for which he picked up a Golden Globe nomination, and directed 2 television films with health themes, In the Gloaming, 1997, and The Brooke Ellison Story, 2004. Reeve also penned 2 autobiographical books, Still Me, 1998, and Nothing is Impossible, Reflections on a New Life, 2002. Some people are walking around with full use of their bodies and they're more paralyzed than I am. Christopher Reeve. The body is just a tool for the mind. As long as one is a Superman in the mind, anything is possible. Ricky Singh. Arun Malhotra. Being a healer has everything to do with who you are and how you live your life. Arun Malhotra, MD, was president of the Delaware Academy of Medicine for the 2014 to 2016 term of office. He was awarded 2013 Nurse Physician Partner at CCHS. His accomplishments are, Board Certified in Internal Medicine, 1999, Board Certified in Nephrology, 2001, National Medical Knowledge, Champions at the Annual Session of American College of Physicians, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1997. National Medical Knowledge, Champions at the Annual Session of American College of Physicians, San Diego, California, 1998. The Benjamin A. Gooley, MD Award, Outstanding Performance as Chief Medical Resident in the Department of Medicine, 1999. Instructor, Temple University School of Medicine, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1998 to 1999. Visiting Professor, Pennsylvania College of Optometry, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1998 to 2000, and recipient of the Leonard Lang Award for 2016 by the Delaware chapter of the American College of Physicians. All of my life experiences have collectively enhanced or enriched me. No knowledge ever goes to waste. Arun Malhotra. By keeping great people around us, we begin to be filled with gratitude as we interact with the fabric of society. Arun Malhotra. Interesting facts. True healing power comes from expertise, highest ethics, and a genuine desire to alleviate suffering of others. Dr. Arun Malhotra is a paragon of these virtues and a true inspiration. His humility, graceful and steady interaction with everyone, along with intense medical expertise in nephrology, demonstrates a beautiful mix of great virtues and talents. The medical profession is also immensely benefited, in addition to patients, by the presence of such an evolved, compassionate, and highly talented individual. Passion to serve the society, using medical expertise, and inherent passion for medical sciences, exists within the life of Dr. Malhotra. His compassion is truly remarkable as he answers all phone calls, including all spam calls, just to see if a patient is calling who needs assistance, from people that may be unknown to him and are requesting assistance. He will spend many hours and take many extra steps in assisting others so that their life becomes a little bit better. Dr. Malhotra has an inner drive to assist others, especially without any thought of personal gain. Such inner satisfaction with intense enthusiasm is the mark of an evolved human being. Adolescence needs such people who can serve as guides and role models. Dr. Malhotra has realized that not all rewards are monetary, and this understanding along with practical action allows him to be in a state of joy, irrespective of the context of his interactions. The healthcare system of any society represents the values the society holds dear. In a capitalistic society, where care is based on the ability to pay, there are significant challenges for people that want to help everyone. Dr. M has constantly strived to ensure that the neediest of the needy, the poorest of the poor, have access to quality healthcare. Along with having medical interventions, Dr. Malhotra believes that a smile, a pat on the back, and words of encouragement are just as important in making a difference in outcomes. Gratitude leads to compassion and joy. Arun Malhotra. Your profession should be a calling, not necessarily just a means to make money. Ricky Singh. Neil Armstrong. That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. Neil Alden Armstrong, August 5, 1930, August 25, 2012, was an American astronaut and aeronautical engineer, and the first person to walk on the moon. He was also a naval aviator, test pilot, and university professor. He was the project pilot on Century Series fighters and flew the North American X-15 7 times. Mystery creates wonder, and wonder is the basis of man's desire to understand. Neil Armstrong. I believe every human has a finite number of heartbeats. I don't intend to waste any of mine. Neil Armstrong. Interesting facts. Astronaut, military pilot, educator. Born on August 5, 1930, near Wapakoneta, Ohio. On July 20, 1969, Neil Armstrong made history by becoming the first man to walk on the moon. He developed a fascination with flight at an early age and earned his student pilot's license when he was 16. In 1947, Armstrong began his studies in aeronautical engineering at Purdue University on a U.S. Navy scholarship. At 10:56 p.m., Armstrong exited the lunar module. He said, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," as he made his famous first step on the moon. For about 2.5 hours, Armstrong and Aldrin collected samples and conducted experiments. They also took photographs, including their own footprints. Before long, the 3 Apollo 11 astronauts were given a warm welcome home. Crowds lined the streets of New York City to cheer on the famous heroes who were honored in a ticker-tape parade. Armstrong received numerous awards for his efforts, including the Medal of Freedom and the Congressional Space Medal of Honor. Neil Armstrong net worth. Neil Armstrong was an American astronaut, public speaker and corporate board member who had a net worth of $8 million at the time of his death in 2012, adjusted for inflation. Neil Armstrong is most famous for being the first human being to walk on the moon. 600 million people watched the first moonwalk on TV. The footprints made by Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin are still on the moon. In much of society, research means to investigate something you do not know or understand. Neil Armstrong. The moon landing inspired many generations to think beyond Earth's gravitational pull and think of space as the ultimate frontier. Ricky Singh. Maria Montessori. One test of the correctness of educational procedure is the happiness of the child. Maria Tecla Artemisia Montessori, August 31, 1870, May 6, 1952, was an Italian physician and educator best known for the philosophy of education that bears her name, and her writing on scientific pedagogy. At an early age, Montessori enrolled in classes at an all-boys technical school, with hopes of becoming an engineer. She soon had a change of heart and began medical school at the Sapienza University of Rome, where she graduated with honors in 1896. Her educational method is in use today in many public and private schools globally. Establishing lasting peace is the work of education. All politics can do is keep us out of war. Maria Montessori. Personal health is related to self-control and to the worship of life in all its natural beauty, self-control bringing with it happiness, renewed youth, and long life. 4. Maria Montessori. Interesting facts. Maria Montessori, Italian educator and originator of the educational system that bears her name. The Montessori system is based on belief in the creative potential of children, their drive to learn, and the right of each child to be treated as an individual. Montessori scorned conventional classrooms, where children, like butterflies mounted on pins, are fastened each to his place. She sought, instead, to teach children by supplying concrete materials and organizing situations conducive to learning with these materials. The 5 principles of Montessori. Principle 1, respect for the child. Principle 2, the absorbent mind. Principle 3, sensitive periods. Principle 4, the prepared environment. Principle 5, autoeducation. Montessori methods encourage students to engage with education through their own devices. A recent study shows that this educational approach leads to significantly higher levels of motivation, interest, and importance in schoolwork and school-related tasks. In the Montessori system, biological and mental growth are linked. Periods of sensitivity, corresponding to certain ages, exist when a child's interest and mental capacity are best suited to the acquisition of certain specialized knowledge. If education is protection to life, you will realize that it is necessary that education accompany life during its whole course. Maria Montessori. The spark that ignited the passion for learning in Montessori education can start a fire that lasts a lifetime. Singh. Steven Spielberg. Even though I get older, what I do never gets old, and that's what I think keeps me hungry. Steven Allen Spielberg, born December 18, 1946, is an American film director, producer, and screenwriter. He began his career in the New Hollywood era, and is one of the most commercially successful directors in history. Spielberg is the recipient of various accolades, including 2 Academy Awards for Best Director, a Kennedy Center Honor, and a Cecil B. DeMille Award. Spielberg was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, and grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. He later moved to California and studied film in college. After directing television episodes and several minor films for Universal Studios, he became a household name for directing 1975 summer blockbuster Jaws. He then directed box office hits Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, 1982, and the adventure films in the Indiana Jones series. Spielberg later explored drama in The Color Purple, 1985, and Empire of the Sun, 1987. I think in terms of chapters. Every time I finish a movie, it's a chapter. When one of my kids graduates from school, that's a chapter. Steven Spielberg. All of us every single year, we are a different person. I don't think we are the same person all our lives. Steven Spielberg. Interesting facts. Spielberg developed an interest in filmmaking as a child, and during his teens his Escape to Nowhere, 1962, a 40-minute war movie, won first prize at a film festival. He next directed Firelight, 1964, a feature-length science fiction yarn, which was followed by an accomplished short about hitchhikers called Amblin, 1968. Like all pioneers, Spielberg was an original. He spurned the obvious and constantly broke new creative ground. Directing a film is a huge enterprise. From a black and white screenplay emerges a cinemascope, technicolor product of light, sound, drama and spectacle based on just one man's, or woman's, searing vision. All organizational leaders and pioneers need such extraordinary vision to turn their ideas into sustainable enterprises. In 1994, Spielberg joined with multimedia moguls Jeffrey Katzenberg and David Geffen to found a new studio, DreamWorks, which was particularly successful as a creator of such popular animated films as Ants, 1998, the Shrek series, 2001, 2004, 2007, and 2010, and Puss in Boots, 2011. In 2006, the partners sold the company to Viacom for $1.6 billion. After some of his films such as Gremlins and Indiana Jones came under fire for scenes considered to be too scary for children, Spielberg suggested to Motion Picture Association of America President Jack Valenti that there be a rating falling between PG and R. In an interview with Vanity Fair, Spielberg said, "I suggested, let's call it PG-13 or PG-14, depending on how you want to design the slide rule, and Jack came back to me and said, we've determined that PG-13 would be the right age for that temperature of movie. The public has an appetite for anything about imagination, anything that is as far away from reality as is creatively possible." Steven Spielberg. Keep alive new ideas and explore how they can be expressed with growing creativity. Singh. Mother Teresa. Peace begins with a smile. Mother Mary Teresa Boyaju, August 26, 1910, September 5, 1997, honored in the Catholic Church as Saint Teresa of Calcutta, was an Albanian Indian Roman Catholic nun and missionary. She was born in Skopje, now the capital of North Macedonia, then part of the Kosovo Vilayet of the Ottoman Empire. After living in Skopje for 18 years, she moved to Ireland and then to India, where she lived for most of her life. The hunger for love is much more difficult to remove than the hunger for bread. Mother Teresa. Intense love does not measure, it just gives. Mother Teresa. Interesting facts. Mother Teresa was born Agnes Gonja Boyaju, the daughter of an ethnic Albanian grocer. She went to Ireland in 1928 to join the Sisters of Loreto at the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary and sailed 6 weeks later to India, where she taught for 17 years at the Orders School in Calcutta, Kolkata. In 1928, at the age of 18, Teresa left home with the aim of becoming a Catholic missionary. She went first to the Loreto Sisters in Ireland. She never saw her family again. In 1929, she traveled to India, where she learnt Bengali. She arrived with the equivalent of 5 rupees. Mother Teresa learned and spoke 5 languages fluently. She spoke English, Albanian, Serbo-Croat, Bengali, and Hindi. Mother Teresa founded the Order of the Missionaries of Charity, a Roman Catholic congregation of women dedicated to the poor, particularly to those in India, that opened numerous centers serving the blind, the aged, and the disabled. In 1952 she established Nirmal Hriday, Place for the Pure of Heart, a hospice for the terminally ill. Distressed by the sight of poverty and suffering, in 1946, she felt an inner call to serve the poor. 9 Mother Teresa gave up her traditional nun habit and adopted an Indian sari, white with a blue edge. The symbolism of her sari was that it was practical and in harmony with Indian culture. The color blue is associated with the Mother Mary. White is associated with truth and purity. The 3 blue bands represent the 3 main vows of the order. If you want a love message to be heard, it has got to be sent out. To keep a lamp burning, we have to keep putting oil in it. Mother Teresa. Love and respect are universal qualities that all people need to give and get. Service to poor, destitute, and dying people is the ultimate way to serve God. Ricky Singh. Bruce Lee. It is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Lee Jun Fan, November 27, 1940, July 20, 1973, commonly known as Bruce Lee, was a Chinese-American martial artist, actor, director, martial arts instructor and philosopher. 2. He was the founder of Jeet Kune Do, a hybrid martial arts philosophy drawing from different combat disciplines that is often credited with paving the way for modern mixed martial arts, MMA. Lee is considered by commentators, critics, media, and other martial artists to be the most influential martial artist of all time and a pop culture icon of the 20th century, who bridged the gap between East and West. He is credited with helping to change the way Asians were presented in American films. It's not the daily increase but daily decrease. Hack away at the unessential. Bruce Lee. Always be yourself, express yourself, have faith in yourself, do not go out and look for a successful personality and duplicate it. Bruce Lee. Interesting facts. Lee was born while his father, a Chinese opera star, was on tour in America. The Lee family moved back to Hong Kong in 1941. Growing up, Lee was a child actor who appeared in some 20 Chinese films. He also studied dancing and trained in the Wing Chun style of Gung Fu, also known as Kung Fu. Back when cola cans weren't made of soft, beaten sheets of aluminum, Bruce Lee punctured holes through them with 2 fingers. He introduced ancient martial arts to the modern world with a style that he developed called Jeet Kune Do, and with just 5 mainstream films under his belt subsequently went on to influence popular culture all over the world. His insatiable quest for knowledge and learning prompted him to have a library of his own, housing over 2,000 books. Camp Bruce Lee provides a program that is a place for kids to learn about Bruce Lee and discover his messages on building confidence and unlimited potential. Camp Bruce Lee is inspired by the life and eternal energy of Bruce Lee. Campers will discover things about themselves they never knew existed. Bruce Lee was not only respected for his skills as a martial artist, but also for his level of fitness. He single-handedly changed the landscape of strength and physical development during his time, inspiring many athletes, bodybuilders, and even average men to adopt his approach to training. To know oneself is to study oneself in action with another person. Bruce Lee. Martial arts are for defense and discipline, not for aggression and harm. Ricky Singh. Malala Yousafzai. Let us remember, one book, one pen, one child, and one teacher can change the world. Malala Yousafzai, born July 12, 1997, often referred to as Malala, is a Pakistani activist for female education and the youngest Nobel Prize laureate. She is known for human rights advocacy, especially the education of women and children in her native Swat Valley in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, northwest Pakistan, where the local Pakistani Taliban had at times banned girls from attending school. Her advocacy has grown into an international movement, and according to former Pakistani Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, she has become the most prominent citizen of the country. There should be no discrimination against languages people speak, skin color, or religion. Malala Yousafzai. Some people only ask others to do something. I believe that. Why should I wait for someone else? Why don't I take a step and move forward? 4. Malala Yousafzai. Interesting facts. As a young girl, Malala Yousafzai defied the Taliban in Pakistan and demanded that girls be allowed to receive an education. She was shot in the head at age 14 by a Taliban gunman in 2012 but survived and continued her work and became the youngest person ever to win the world-famous Nobel Peace Prize. 5,7 Malala Yousafzai is a campaigner for girls' education from Pakistan. Using the pseudonym Gul Makai, Malala Yousafzai was only 11 when she started blogging about what life was like under the Taliban for the BBC. Because of the violent assassination attempt on Malala, Pakistan announced the creation of the very first Right to Education bill. Among her many awards, in 2013 Yousafzai won the United Nations Human Rights Prize, awarded every 5 years. She was named one of Time magazine's most influential people in 2013 and appeared on one of the 7 covers that were printed for that issue. After winning the Nobel Prize, Yousafzai continued to attend school in England while using her enhanced public profile to bring attention to human rights issues around the world. In July 2015, with support from the Malala Fund, she opened a girls' school in Lebanon for refugees from the Syrian civil war. She discussed her work with refugees as well as her own displacement in We Are Displaced, 2019. There are many problems, but I think there is a solution to all these problems. It's just one, and it's education. Malala Yousafzai. Don't take access to universal education for granted. Even today there are parts of the world where access to education may depend upon one's gender or social status. Ricky Singh. William Shakespeare. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. William Shakespeare, April 26, 1564, April 23, 1616, was an English playwright, poet, and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest dramatist. He is often called England's national poet and the Bard of Avon, or simply the Bard. His extant works, including collaborations, consist of some 39 plays, 154 sonnets, 3 long narrative poems, and a few other verses, some of uncertain authorship. His plays have been translated into every major living language and are performed more often than those of any other playwright. They also continue to be studied and reinterpreted. How far that little candle throws its beams. So shines a good deed in a naughty world. William Shakespeare. Love sought is good, but given unsought, is better. William Shakespeare. Interesting facts. Shakespeare's parents were probably illiterate, and his children almost certainly were. 6 During his lifetime, William Shakespeare wrote around 37 plays for the theater and over 150 poems. No one can say the exact number, because some of his work may have been lost over time, and some may have been written with the help of other people. Come 1585, the mysterious William Shakespeare disappeared from records for around 7 years. Historians often refer to this part of the writer's life as the lost years. Shakespeare's plays were immediately big hits. He wrote different kinds of plays, all of which could be divided into 3 categories. A. Tragedy, including Hamlet, Othello, King Lear and Romeo and Juliet. B. Comedy, including Twelfth Night and The Taming of the Shrew. C. History, including Henry IV, Henry V and Richard III. William Shakespeare died on April 23, 1616, at the age of 52, not bad for an era when the average life expectancy ranged between 30 and 40 years. Shakespeare supposedly had the wherewithal to pen the epitaph over his tomb, which is located inside a Stratford church. Intended to thwart the numerous grave robbers who plundered England's cemeteries at the time, the verse reads, "Good friend, for Jesus' sake forbear, to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he that moves my bones." It must have done the trick, since Shakespeare's remains have yet to be disturbed. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. William Shakespeare. All of us are heroes in our own stories. Be the hero you want to be in your life story. Ricky Singh. Barack Obama. I think when you spread the wealth around, it's good for everybody. Barack Hussein Obama II, born August 4, 1961, is an American politician and attorney who served as the 44th President of the United States from 2009 to 2017. A member of the Democratic Party, Obama was the first African American president of the United States. He previously served as a U.S. Senator from Illinois from 2005 to 2008 and as an Illinois State Senator from 1997 to 2004. There's not a liberal America and a conservative America, there's the United States of America. Barack Obama. The future rewards those who press on. I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. I don't have time to complain. I'm going to press on. Barack Obama. Interesting facts. Barack means one who is blessed in Swahili. 10 From age 6 through 10, Obama lived with his mother and stepfather in Indonesia, where he attended Catholic and Muslim schools. I was raised as an Indonesian child and a Hawaiian child and as a black child and as a white child, Obama later recalled. And so, what I benefited from is a multiplicity of cultures that all fed me. On the 44th president's desk sat a carving of an egg held by a wooden hand. This Kenyan symbol signifies the fragility of life. Even when he is not in the office, Barack also carries significant items for good luck. One is a tiny statue of Madonna and Child and another is a bracelet bore by an Iraqi soldier. Obama goes by the codename Renegade to the Secret Service agents who guard him. Each of his family members also has associated code names. All of them start with the same letter. Michelle, the wife, is Renaissance. Malia is Radiance while Sasha is Rosebud. Obama is also a published author. He has written 3 books, Dreams from My Father in 1995, The Audacity of Hope in 2006, and Of Thee I Sing in 2010. In 2006, Obama won a Grammy for Best Spoken Word Album for the audiobook of Dreams from My Father. In October 2009, Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize. Obama holds the record for the tweet with the most likes of all time. In response to the Charlottesville tragedy in August 2017, Obama tweeted the beginning of a Nelson Mandela quote. The inspirational tweet was retweeted 1.7 million times and liked a whopping 4.5 million times. Obama's real-life heroes include Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, Pablo Picasso, and John Coltrane. We need to internalize this idea of excellence. Not many folks spend a lot of time trying to be excellent. Barack Obama. Look beyond political differences and focus on things that bind us together. Ricky Singh. Charlie Chaplin. A day without laughter is a day wasted. Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin KBE, April 16, 1889, December 25, 1977, was an English comic actor, filmmaker, and composer who rose to fame in the era of silent film. He became a worldwide icon through his screen persona, The Tramp, and is considered one of the most important figures in the history of the film industry. His career spanned more than 75 years, from childhood in the Victorian era until a year before his death in 1977, and encompassed both adulation and controversy. Despair is a narcotic. It lulls the mind into indifference. Charlie Chaplin. I remain just one thing, and one thing only, and that is a clown. It places me on a far higher plane than any politician. Charlie Chaplin. Interesting facts. Chaplin's childhood in London was one of poverty and hardship, as his father was absent and his mother struggled financially, and he was sent to a workhouse twice before the age of 9. When he was 14, his mother was committed to a mental asylum. Both Chaplin's parents were in the entertainment industry. 4.1.4.2 In 1896 Chaplin and his older half-brother were sent to a public boarding school for orphans and destitute children. Chaplin spent about 18 months in the orphanage. Chaplin composed the music for many of his own movies, despite never having had proper music training. In 1972, Chaplin actually won an Oscar for the music in Limelight, 1952, which he helped compose. Chaplin's comedic explorations into the human condition transformed cinema, mostly comedies, from a mere novelty into an art form, because his films were able to address real issues with dimensional characters in a way that made them easier to talk about. 7 Chaplin played the same character in all but a few movies. Grave robbers made off with Chaplin's remains. Just a few months after Chaplin's death, 2 robbers stole his coffin from a Swiss cemetery and sent his wife a $600,000 ransom demand. When she refused to pay, they allegedly threatened her kids. The bungling robbers were soon caught, however, and the coffin was recovered. It was then reburied in a theft-proof concrete vault. To truly laugh, you must be able to take your pain and play with it. Charlie Chaplin. Always keep smiling in front of the camera, even when you are going through tough times. Ricky Singh. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. Joan Ruth Bader Ginsburg, March 15, 1933, September 18, 2020, was an American lawyer and jurist who served as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States from 1993 until her death in September 2020. She was nominated by President Bill Clinton, replacing retiring Justice Byron White, and at the time was generally viewed as a moderate consensus builder. She eventually became part of the liberal wing of the court as the court shifted to the right over time. Ginsburg was the first Jewish woman and the second woman to serve on the court, after Sandra Day O'Connor. During her tenure, Ginsburg wrote notable majority opinions. I think unconscious bias is one of the hardest things to get at. Ruth Ginsburg. You can disagree without being disagreeable. Ruth Ginsburg. Interesting facts. In the fall of 1956, Ginsburg enrolled at Harvard Law School, where she was one of only 9 women in a class of about 500 men, and was also taking care of her 14-month-old baby at the time. The dean of Harvard Law reportedly invited all the female law students to dinner at his family home and asked the female law students, including Ginsburg, "Why are you at Harvard Law School, taking the place of a man?" When her husband took a job in New York City, that same dean denied Ginsburg's request to complete her 3rd year towards a Harvard Law degree at Columbia Law School, so Ginsburg transferred to Columbia and became the first woman to be on 2 major law reviews, the Harvard Law Review and Columbia Law Review. In 1959, she earned her law degree at Columbia and tied for first in her class. Ginsburg won 5 landmark cases on gender equality in the U.S. Supreme Court, based on the protections of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg became the first Jewish female U.S. Supreme Court justice, and only the second woman appointed ever, in 1993. She is known as a champion of abortion and gay rights, the poor, and basically, all marginalized people. Ginsburg paved the way for the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which passed in 1974 and allowed women to apply for credit cards and mortgages without a male cosigner. Early in her tenure on the court, Ginsburg wrote the majority's opinion in United States v. Virginia, 1996, which held that the men-only admission policy of a state-run university, the Virginia Military Institute, VMI, violated the Equal Protection Clause. It is not women's liberation, it is women's and men's liberation. Ruth Ginsburg. Be the voice for those who do not have a voice in our society. Ricky Singh. Leonardo da Vinci. Learning never exhausts the mind. Leonardo da Vinci, 14/April 15, 1452 b. May 2, 1519, was an Italian polymath of the High Renaissance who is widely considered one of the most diversely talented individuals ever to have lived. While his fame initially rested on his achievements as a painter, he also became known for his notebooks, in which he made drawings and notes on science and invention. These involve a variety of subjects including anatomy, astronomy, botany, cartography, painting, and paleontology. Leonardo's genius epitomized the Renaissance humanist idea, and his collective works compose a contribution to later generations of artists rivaled only by that of his contemporary Michelangelo. The greatest deception men suffer is from their own opinions. Leonardo da Vinci. As a well-spent day brings happy sleep, so a life well spent brings happy death. Leonardo da Vinci. Interesting facts. Da Vinci received no formal education beyond basic reading, writing, and math. 5 Growing up in rural Tuscany, Da Vinci spent much of his time outdoors, where he marveled at the natural world. His journals indicate that he had an especially ardent interest in the properties of water, as well as the movements of birds of prey. In fact, the artist recorded that his earliest memory was of a dream in which a bird of prey landed on his face and pushed its tail feathers between his lips. Leonardo da Vinci was an artist and engineer who is best known for his paintings, notably the Mona Lisa, circa 1503-19, and The Last Supper, 1495-98. His drawing of the Vitruvian Man, circa 1490, has also become a cultural icon. Leonardo is sometimes credited as the inventor of the tank, helicopter, parachute, and flying machine, among other vehicles and devices, but later scholarship has disputed such claims. Nonetheless, Leonardo's notebooks reveal a sharp intellect, and his contributions to art, including methods of representing space, three-dimensional objects, and the human figure, cannot be overstated. He was ambidextrous, he could draw forward and backward with opposing hands simultaneously. Leonardo da Vinci wrote most of his work from right to left. The result of this writing was a mirror script, which was difficult to read. Some historians explain the many backwards written texts among Leonardo's papers as the artist's effort to encode his ideas against theft, but others speculate that when writing with his left hand, Leonardo da Vinci reversed direction as a means of avoiding inevitable smears of the wet ink, charcoal or chalk he was using. When da Vinci was 24 years old, he was arrested along with several male companions on charges of sodomy. When no witnesses came forward to testify against the artist and his friends, the charges were dropped. But Da Vinci's journals suggest that the allegations were somewhat devastating to a man who liked to keep his private life private. The human foot is a masterpiece of engineering and a work of art. Leonardo da Vinci. Every aspect of life is an art. Ricky Singh. Oprah Winfrey. When I look into the future, it's so bright it burns my eyes. Oprah Gail Winfrey, January 29, 1954, is an American talk show host, television producer, actress, author, and philanthropist. She is best known for her talk show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, broadcast from Chicago, which was the highest-rated television program of its kind in history and ran in national syndication for 25 years, from 1986 to 2011. Dubbed the Queen of All Media, she was the richest African American of the 20th century and North America's first black multi-billionaire, and she has been ranked the greatest black philanthropist in American history. By 2007, she was sometimes ranked as the most influential woman in the world. Doing the best at this moment puts you in the best place for the next moment. Oprah Winfrey. Where there is no struggle, there is no strength. Oprah Winfrey. Interesting facts. Winfrey was born into poverty in rural Mississippi to a single teenage mother and later raised in inner-city Milwaukee. She has stated that she was molested during her childhood and early teens and became pregnant at 14. Her son was born prematurely and died in infancy. By 19, she was a co-anchor for the local evening news. Winfrey's often emotional, extemporaneous delivery eventually led to her transfer to the daytime talk show arena, and after boosting a third-rated local Chicago talk show to first place, she launched her own production company. Winfrey was named Orpah after the biblical character in the Book of Ruth on her birth certificate, but people mispronounced it regularly and Oprah stuck. As a child, Oprah Winfrey was nicknamed the preacher for her ability to recite the Bible verses as her grandmother often took her to church. 6. At the end of the 20th century, Life listed Winfrey as both the most influential woman and the most influential black person of her generation, and in a cover story profile the magazine called her America's Most Powerful Woman. In 2013, Winfrey was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, by President Barack Obama. Wearing bib number 40 to match her age, Winfrey finished the 1994 Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C., in 4 hours, 29 minutes, and 20 seconds. "This is better than an Emmy," Winfrey said after fulfilling a promise she made to herself 8 years prior. Winfrey trained for 20 weeks leading up to the race. Surround yourself with only people who are going to lift you higher. Oprah Winfrey. A bright future awaits anyone who is willing to work hard and create it. Ricky Singh. Le Corbusier. The home should be the treasure chest of living. Charles-Édouard Jeanneret, October 6, 1887, August 27, 1965, known as Le Corbusier, was a Swiss-French architect, designer, painter, urban planner, writer, and one of the pioneers of what is now regarded as modern architecture. He was born in Switzerland and became a French citizen in 1930. His career spanned 5 decades, and he designed buildings in Europe, Japan, India, and North and South America. Dedicated to providing better living conditions for the residents of crowded cities, Le Corbusier was influential in urban planning, and was a founding member of the Congrès International d'Architecture Moderne, CIAM. Le Corbusier prepared the master plan for the city of Chandigarh in India, and contributed specific designs for several buildings there, especially the government buildings. Architecture is the masterly, correct, and magnificent play of masses brought together in light. Our eyes are made to see forms in light, light and shade reveal these forms. Le Corbusier. Life never stops. The torment of men will be eternal, unless the function of creating and acting and changing, living intensely through each day, be considered an eternal joy. Le Corbusier. Interesting facts. Le Corbusier began teaching himself by going to the library to read about architecture and philosophy, by visiting museums, by sketching buildings, and by constructing them. Le Corbusier designed the first planned city in India, Chandigarh. The layout was based on the plans he conceptualized in his book La Ville Radieuse, The Radiant City, which itself was an update on ideas for Ville Contemporaine. Le Corbusier defined the principles of his new architecture in Les 5 Points de l'Architecture Moderne, published in 1927. The 5.7 are. The pilotis, or pylon. The building is raised up on reinforced concrete pylons, which allows for free circulation on the ground level, and eliminates dark and damp parts of the house. The roof terrace. The sloping roof is replaced by a flat roof. The roof can be used as a garden, for promenades, sports, or a swimming pool. The free plan. Load-bearing walls are replaced by steel or reinforced concrete columns, so the interior can be freely designed, and interior walls can be put anywhere, or left out entirely. The structure of the building is not visible from the outside. The ribbon window. Since the walls do not support the house, the windows can run the entire length of the house, so all rooms can get equal light. The free facade. Since the building is supported by columns in the interior, the facade can be much lighter and more open, or made entirely of glass. There is no need for lintels or other structure around the windows. Le Corbusier's design philosophy was heavily inspired by mathematical concepts used by Leonardo da Vinci, such as the golden ratio and the Fibonacci series, which he used as the basis for his architectural proportions. I prefer drawing to talking. Drawing is faster and leaves less room for lies. Le Corbusier, where we live, work, and play matters in our overall growth and development. Ricky Singh. Confucius. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Confucius, /KNFUS/KNFUSHS, Chinese, Pinyin, Kong Fuzi, Master Kong, 551-479 BCE, was a Chinese philosopher and politician of the spring and autumn period who was traditionally considered the paragon of Chinese sages. The philosophy of Confucius, Confucianism, emphasized personal and governmental morality, correctness of social relationships, justice, kindness, and sincerity. Confucianism was part of the Chinese social fabric and way of life. To Confucians, everyday life was the arena of religion. When anger rises, think of the consequences. Confucius. The more man meditates upon good thoughts, the better will be his world and the world at large. Confucius. Interesting facts. Confucius's ancestors were probably members of the aristocracy who had become poverty-stricken commoners by the time of his birth. His father died when Confucius was only 3 years old. Instructed first by his mother, Confucius distinguished himself as an indefatigable learner in his teens. There are 6 main groups of beliefs in Confucianism. These include 6. Yi, righteousness. Sin, honesty and trustworthiness. Chung, loyalty to the state, etc. Li, includes ritual, propriety, etiquette, etc. Xiao, love within the family, love of parents for their children, and love of children for their parents. Zhen, benevolence, humanness towards one another. The most important Confucianism virtue. Confucius's disciples were considerably younger than him. He did not actively recruit them. He did not found any school or academy. Young men from a wide range of backgrounds, sons of aristocrats, children of common gentlemen, merchants, farmers, artisans, and even criminals and sons of criminals, chose to attach themselves to him in order to learn from him skills that might get them started on a path toward an official career. There is no God in Confucianism, but rather a force called the Tao, also known as the Great Ultimate. Confucius believed that the Tao was the impetus for creation and that this force flows through all life, enabling change and betterment. Choose a job you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. Confucius. A wise person never brags about their knowledge. They just live it. Ricky Singh. Muhammad Ali. The man who has no imagination has no wings. Muhammad Ali, born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., January 17, 1942, June 3, 2016, was an American professional boxer, activist, entertainer and philanthropist. Nicknamed the Greatest, he is widely regarded as one of the most significant and celebrated figures of the 20th century and is one of the greatest boxers of all time. Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. Muhammad Ali. Hating people because of their color is wrong. And it doesn't matter which color does the hating. It's just plain wrong. Muhammad Ali. Interesting facts. Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., Muhammad Ali, grew up in the American South in a time of segregated public facilities. His father, Cassius Marcellus Clay, Sr., supported a wife and 2 sons by painting billboards and signs. His mother, Odessa Grady Clay, worked as a household domestic. When Clay was 12 years old, he took up boxing under the tutelage of Louisville policeman Joe Martin. After advancing through the amateur ranks, he won a gold medal in the 175-pound division at the 1960 Olympic Games in Rome and began a professional career under the guidance of the Louisville Sponsoring Group, a syndicate composed of 11 wealthy white men. Outside the ring, Ali attained success as a musician, where he received 2 Grammy nominations. He also featured as an actor and writer, releasing 2 autobiographies. Ali retired from boxing in 1981 and focused on religion, philanthropism and activism. Muhammad Ali achieved renown as a boxer through his speed, superb footwork, ability to take a punch, and tremendous courage. His final record of 56 wins and 5 losses with 37 knockouts has been matched by others, but but the quality of his opponents and his overwhelming success during his prime placed him among boxing's immortals. In 1996, Ali was chosen to light the Olympic flame at the start of the Games of the 26th Olympiad in Atlanta, Georgia. The outpouring of goodwill that accompanied his appearance confirmed his status as one of the most beloved athletes in the world. The dramatic period of his life from 1964 to 1974 was the subject of the film Ali, 2001, in which Will Smith starred as Ali. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Muhammad Ali. Done with conviction and grace, many of life's challenges can be knocked out. Ricky Singh. About the author. Mr. Ricky Singh was born in New Delhi, India on July 28, 1969 as the oldest of 3 children, i.e., 2 sisters and Ricky. Immigrated to the United States in 1988, Ricky purchased his first business in 1992 and has not looked back since that time. He has diverse business experiences and expertise, running convenience stores, gas stations, 7-Elevens, tobacco stores, technology startups, restaurants, delis, and other food establishments. Accomplishments include the following. A. Successful serial entrepreneur. B. Owner of all Speedy gas stations in Delaware. C. Completed 52 marathons in 50 states. D. Ultra-endurance athlete, running multiple distances, ranging from 5K to 135 miles. E. Climbed multiple peaks including Mount Manaslu, 8th highest point, and Mount Everest. F. Second Indian American and first American Sikh to summit Mount Everest. G. Passionate philanthropist, interested in human upliftment. H. Motivational speaker in diverse settings. Mr. Singh is a loving father with 2 children, is dedicated to married life with his wife, and believes firmly in taking care of his parents. His mother lives with him in their home in Wilmington, Delaware.